You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you, Miller and Moulton, on Happy Franchise Tag Day?
Happy Franchise Tag Day. I'll repeat damn near anything you say.
Especially at this hour, you're still half asleep. Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Thanks so much for being with us. Young Felipe is back in the house today. I have no idea why he had yesterday off. I didn't realize he had the seniority or the tenure to be able to get a day off, but he was off. Now he's back.
It's good to be back.
And carte blanche with the microphone.
Right. Well, he's chomping at the bit. 3 whole days chomping at the bit. So, first off, the madness is off to a fine start.
The Mast, baby.
I liked them better when they were Tennessee Chattanooga, but that's okay. That's all right. Now they're
East
just
Tennessee State.
No.
Oh, they're just Chattanooga now.
They're just Chattanooga. They used to be Tennessee Chattanooga.
Okay.
Now they're just
that's
Chattanooga.
Right. They were UT Chattanooga.
Right. Now they're just Chattanooga.
I like Chattanooga.
Just Chattanooga?
Yeah.
All right. So, nothing like going to your left. About a 35-footer, damn near falling out of bounds for 3 in the wind swish.
Awesome.
So, it is March. Therefore, there will be madness. Love the one bid league finals.
And obviously the dark side is Furman because they did everything right.
Yeah, in overtime anyway.
Well, Chattanooga was the better team.
They were the one.
I've got to say, when you're inside as a fan and the student body population of males decides to rip their shirt off inside, what's the point? Did you notice that last night? Because they were having a ball showing them.
Right.
That was a bunch of kids in their 20s with full-on dad bods.
Right.
Not one was in shape.
No.
Not one of them was even close.
No.
And they said, you know what we should do to make ourselves look good? Take our shirts off.
Right. Well, they're young and foolish, but they're enthusiastic.
They were enthusiastic. Poor kid hits that shot and he's got a bunch of sweaty fat kids jumping on him without their shirts on.
I love the fact that, just that unbridled joy in the first that you start running around and he's taking his jersey off. It reminded me of the 70s. We're going streaking. What? But it's awesome to see. It's fun. Heartbreak. The old ABC Sports, Jim McKay, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, March Madness, particularly in the one bid leagues. It's right there.
But fun last night. We had the bids going out. Georgia State punches their ticket. The Mocs punch their ticket. Bunch of semifinal games. More finals coming up tonight. It is the time of year. The one bid league's going on. And delivering last night as Chattanooga downs Furman to go to the tournament.
Yeah, we got 4 small conference finals tonight. 4. Basically, think 7 and 9 on the mothership and the deuce, as Dan Patrick likes to say. So the Summit, the Colonial, the Horizon, and the Ace Sun finals. All tonight on the ESPN family of networks between 7 and 9 o'clock will be the start times. But some big goings on in the world of sports yesterday. Some serious subjects.
Well, let's bet on it.
Look at you.
Let's make some bets. Let's get started.
Look at you. 6:05. There you go. You take the open and the music and what have you. We're not even on the air 4 minutes. And boom! Off the top rope, Mark Miller.
Hey, I loved his running. Calvin Ridley's running stream of consciousness last night on Twitter was fantastic.
He's taking this, at least publicly, very well. Because that $1,500 parlay is costing him about $11 million.
Right. As I might have been revealed with someone else, the worst odds ever on a parlay.
Yes. Very much so. Here's what I find a bit ironic is that the app that he used to place said parlay is no longer in existence. And the bets were placed 4 months ago. Thanksgiving week is when the bets took place. And that app didn't make it, a month longer? I mean, did that app make it to Christmas?
We're talking about the Hard Rock app?
Yeah.
Made it a few weeks.
Yeah. So I don't think it made it much longer. Right. Your thoughts on him getting a 1-year suspension, which historically has precedent. You go back to the mid-'60s, then Commissioner Pete Rozelle suspended both Paul Hornung and Alex Karras a year each. By the way, 2 Hall of Famers. Suspended them a year each for betting on the NFL. Paul Hornung, when asked, did you bet on the Packers? He said, yeah, we're good.
I was stunned to hear the news. That one caught me. I was like, what? Calvin Ridley was betting on the NFL? Huh. Well, that's a new one. Wasn't expecting to hear that out of Calvin Ridley. I was expecting, of all the things that I was going to hear about Calvin Ridley, betting on the NFL while he'd walked away from the game was not what I was expecting to hear. First. Secondly, because I knew of the Hornung and Karras suspension from back in the 60s, the minute I saw gambling in a player in a year, I went, well, that's what they did generations ago, 50 plus years ago now.
Right.
60 years ago. So I was not at all surprised by the length of the suspension because it is the one thing that has the NFL completely freaked out is players betting on games. It's the one thing that you can't have. And because the integrity of the game, and now that we're jumping into this gambling ring full on, I thought the suspension, not knowing the, because I didn't really know the story. I mean, did you? I hadn't heard anything about it up until seeing Calvin Ridley suspended a year from gambling.
No. Nobody knew. The Atlanta Falcons knew. And I will say, to their credit, there had been numerous opportunities to unload Calvin Ridley. And to their credit, they knew about this. And they didn't do anything about it. Like when teams called them this off season, because they can't technically make a deal for another week and change. But when teams were contacting them, they just said to teams, he's not available.
So once I saw the story, I thought, the minute I saw gambling, I said, well, it's going to be a year because that's what they do. And I know it's 60 years ago, but don't ask me why. But the Paul Hornung and Karras story was in my, as soon as I read it, that was the first thing I thought about. Not normally my nature. And I thought, well, that seems right.
Joe Banner, former NFL executive, he's part of the 33rd team. He said the people rationalizing what Ridley did to him is hard to comprehend. We can outright, with no ambiguity, condemn him and have a separate discussion about NFL gaming sponsorship. To Joe Banner, I'm surprised he's only suspended for a year. And there are others who think that he'll never play in the league again, that no one else will touch him. I find that laughable. And then there's the other side of it, which is just about every team has some sort of gambling, gaming deal in place. And it's ironic that Calvin Ridley is suspended using an app, which is the title stadium sponsor of the Miami Dolphins. Do you think you can separate the two, or
Yes.
do you think that this is hypocrisy to the nth degree?
Yes, and yes, but hypocrisy is a big part of life now, David. in a lot of different ways. I mean, this is not the first or last case of it. But I do believe you can separate the two. You know, we work in radio. At least I think. And beer sponsorships and bar sponsorships have been a big part of what we've done for our entire careers. It doesn't mean you and I can sit here and get sloshed for the next 3 hours. It's against the law. We'd lose our jobs. I mean, everybody has different things that are legal in life, but they're not legal at your job. I can separate this really easily.
Okay. I think there is a mitigating circumstance, and it's not the significant conflict of interest between how the NFL is doing business and then how it is one of their players actually using said business. It is the fact that Calvin Ridley was on leave from the Falcons, and he was on leave for mental health reasons. No idea what they are, no idea what the issue is. But he was an active player, but he was not on the active roster at the time that this behavior took place.
Was he still getting paid?
Not sure.
Because I think that would be
I'm not sure. I mean, he was still a member of the Atlanta Falcons, but he was not on their active roster. He took a leave of absence from the Falcons. A leave, by the way, that he never came back from. Number one. Number two, and I don't know if you want to get into the particulars of it, he did not just wager on Falcons games. He included the Falcons in with 2 other games in a parlay. So, the big concern if you're the NFL is that somebody with, quote, inside information. Now, you would think Ridley would have a pretty good understanding of the Atlanta Falcons, but the fact that it was not a straight up or down bet on the Falcons. All right. The Falcons game was included in with 2 others in a parlay. And so the NFL even said, we looked at that if we were contemplating banning him for life and what have you, and realized, well, we don't think that this was a case of just, a guy with inside information placing bets. We think this was a guy who just wanted to bet. But the mental health part of this equation, because this is obviously going to be appealed.
Andrew Brandt, there will be lawyers.
Yes. And we will have a lawyer on our show coming up in a little more than an hour to see whether or not there is a legitimate lawsuit here. I have no idea if there is. But do you think that the mental health aspect and the fact that he was not on an active roster, he had not practiced with the team, I believe, for over a month, do you think that that is a legitimate mitigating circumstance here?
Not if he was getting paid by the Falcons. And that, neither of us know the answer to that. If he's on the payroll still, and I believe that he was, and maybe when he took that leave, he quit getting paid. If he quit getting paid, that would be.
So if
there would be some there to me, David. If he's not getting paid,
an unpaid leave,
right,
that would make a difference to you.
It would to me.
All right. I'll try to dig up whether or not Ridley was getting paid or not. I just know he was on leave, and I know the reason that was given. And he never came back to active duty, if you were, with the Falcons. So, listen, we had to expect this, didn't we, in the last 2 to 3 years? You and I, who are as pro-gambling as 2 people with microphones have been really this century. From the first moment that we joined forces back in 2006, we have been pro
gambling.
Regulate it, tax it. Okay. And I'm thrilled, by the way, that the NFL is caught Ridley, so to speak, whether they were tipped off or not, but that he was caught. This is something, if you're the league, the only thing that can bring the NFL down is the legitimacy of the outcome of the games. That's why the Stephen Ross allegation by Brian Flores is very significant, which has also been brought up by people going, so let me get this straight. He gets a year for a three-game parlay. Okay, but what are we going to do about the owner of the Dolphins if it's proven that he wanted to tank? He wanted to lose the games. I mean, that goes back to, well, if you're going to give Calvin Ridley a year, don't you have to take the franchise away from Stephen Ross?
It's even more painfully obvious now than it was a day ago, David. It really is.
By the way, in our Twitch chat room, they're wondering, did he win the bet? My understanding is no. No. And now he lost a year's salary. So $1,500 cost him $11 million. Damn.
Ay.
Damn.
That's stupid.
Yeah, that's gambling.
That is. We are Miller and Moulton. We thank you for listening right here on the Florida Sports Network. Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Non-football injury illness list. He is not entitled to any compensation under his contract while on such list. Okay, except as provided below. His contract will continue to run while in such status.
By the way, gas didn't get that expensive overnight. They can't just take it from $3.80 to $4.19.
Well, supposedly we get 1% of our oil from Russia, and yet our gas is going up 50 cents a day. I mean, come on.
Right.
Do we really think this is because of what's going on in the
No,
Ukraine?
it's a gouge.
We're right. We're getting screwed.
It's a gouge.
We're getting screwed. And what I want to know is there anything, I mean, seriously, is there anything the government can do?
Well, why aren't we opening that oil thing in Alabama?
60% of the leases that are out there are not being used by the gas and oil companies. Okay? 60%.
They'll start being used now because the price is so high, they'll want to start pumping.
Right.
Okay. So, I mean, there's plenty of leases out there that could be used to start pumping gas and oil.
Not to mention, go look up the 2020 OPEC pact that Trump did. This is a fact. This is just, he talked OPEC in Mexico into lowering production levels to like a 10-year low. We have not done anything about it. And OPEC's like, look, why are we going to start pumping now?
Right.
Are you nuts?
OPEC's like, we're not going to help you out.
This is where groupthink gets people really in trouble. Oh, it already is. We were $3.79 on Sunday. We were $4.19 yesterday. Are you kidding me?
I mean, it's total bullshit.
It kind of blows my mind that the prices in Miami are lower than they are here.
No, it's cheaper gas there. Cheaper land. I mean, unless you're by the water, but I believe the refineries are there, so the distance they have to go.
True.
Atlanta always had the cheapest gas. Got close for a half a second. I got a little nervous. I think that was my bucket that put it away right there.
Cheapest gas I've ever seen like when driving around. And granted, I've traveled the South much more than the West, but usually it's in small town Mississippi or Louisiana.
Yeah, remember one time I looked it up, and then I asked you guys to guess, and your first guess was the right answer. And I remember you telling me that.
This is what happens, by the way, when you let a team that's leaving the conference play in the conference tournament.
Who's leaving?
Texas Arlington's leaving for the WAC. They won the Sun Belt yesterday.
So my legs are warm for the Miller Moulton Combine. Just wondering when that's going to happen, you know? I need my 40 time. $30 seconds. $15. Here you go.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, 23 minutes past the hour. Thanks so much for being with us on this Tuesday. Week from tonight, NCAA tournament will be underway with the play-in games, first two of them in Dayton. Some big stories in the sports world yesterday. Calvin Ridley suspended for a year for gambling on NFL games. He placed a series of bets Thanksgiving week last year. One of the bets was betting on the Falcons in a parlay. He is a wide receiver for the Falcons. Apparently, he placed $1,500 worth of bets using the Hard Rock app during the, what was it, like 5-6 weeks? It was a.
Don't even think it was that long. I only made a couple of bets.
And of course, Hard Rock, proud sponsors of the stadium that the Dolphins play in. That's an NFL team. And most every NFL team has a sponsorship with a casino, some sort of gaming company. And should that matter at all in this particular instance? Mark, I was able to find out during the break that Calvin Ridley was around week 5, was placed on the non-football injury/illness list. When you are placed on said list, you are not paid. So he was not paid, took a leave, and did not come back the rest of the season. So of the $10 million salary that he had last year, he earned roughly at most $3 million of it.
Right.
Now he is going to have to forfeit his $11 million salary for this coming season with the 1-year suspension, which will be appealed.
Fact that he wasn't paid throws a wrench in it to me.
Why is that?
He's betting on games. He's not, I guess he's employed, but he's not getting paid by the team.
He's a member of the team. He's not on the active roster. He's on leave. And he was specifically on leave for, quote, mental health, unquote, issues, whatever they were, whatever they are. This will be appealed. You think that the fact he was not paid is a mitigating issue. I think the fact that he was on leave for mental health issues becomes a mitigating issue. And I wonder if the NFL took it into consideration that the now 1-year suspension could exacerbate said mental health issues.
I'm a bit help me here with why you think the mental health issues is the mitigating circumstances of his gambling. Is he going to be able to say that it was...
May not have fully realized that what he was doing was basically risking banishment. And not just for a year either. I mean, the NFL could have come down and said, no, you'll never see or hear from Calvin Ridley again.
And it sounds like the case you're making is one that's going to be almost impossible to prove one way or another. I mean, if they were to get up there and say that mentally he didn't know what he was doing, how could you tell them they were wrong?
And obviously anybody who knows me knows I am not in any way, shape, or form trying to make light of a mental health issue.
No, that's why I'm asking you the questions the way that I am.
But a mental health issue is something that in most cases cannot be seen. And there is a physical injury that I think is a counterpart to it. When someone has a back injury, all right, a back is a tricky thing. You know, the famous Mario Lemieux story, he was fined for 2 years, and literally 10 minutes before a game, bent, was sitting on his stool and reached over to tie his shoelaces and was out weeks because, his back just acted up, even though his back had been fine for a long period of time. So, mental health issues can be triggered. I have no idea his state of mind Thanksgiving week. And I don't know if it's relevant. The other part of this, which we haven't gotten into, is that when Paul Hornung and Alex Karras, 2 Hall of Famers, by the way, were suspended for a year for betting on the NFL. And in Hornung's case, he bet on his team. Didn't bet against it, but bet on his team and admitted to it. They were suspended a year. Oh, that's 55 years ago. A lot's changed, including our thoughts about gambling. I mean, I understand football and baseball are different, but to give you an example, in the early 80s, Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle were hired by a casino in Atlantic City to be a greeter. A greeter. When you came to the hotel.
Think Walmart greeter.
Right. Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle shook your hand and said, hey, thanks for coming to Bally's. All right. And the commissioner of baseball at the time said, resign or you're banned from baseball for life for being a greeter at a casino. That was 40 years ago. We all know how much differently we feel about gambling and how much more prevalent gambling is now. Yet the NFL's punishment is the same today as the NFL's punishment was 55 years ago. Almost 60. I think it was 58 years ago. You do wonder, hey, times have changed. Our attitudes towards gambling have changed as a society. Should the punishment therefore change?
Our attitudes have changed on gambling. There is no question. It's obvious. But our attitudes on cheating, on getting an edge, on having one up on someone haven't changed. And I think people would, I would think fans would be fearful of players gambling on games. I think we could make a real, we were talking about a poll question before the show. I think we can make a real simple poll question. Do you think players should be allowed to bet on games?
Well,
whether he was on...
In theory, no, because then obviously something funny is going on. But here's a question. Should they be allowed to bet on other teams' games? I would also argue no, because they can get inside information,
Correct.
Players talk, etc. But, I mean, let's be honest. Do we think players are not betting nowadays on games and they're not maybe having somebody else place their bets for them?
Oh,
they're not coming
If we think
up,
Calvin Ridley's the only one, we're all crazy.
right? People maybe have dummy accounts, etc. So this is going to be out there. And you would think it's bat blank crazy to do it. You're making big money. I mean, even if you're making the league minimum, you're making around 600,000. Why would you risk it, to place whatever bets that it is that you're placing? But we know people like the action, and people who make money still want more.
I know Lee has had good years for us and all. You think Calvin's available this year to come on Thursdays?
Boy.
Pick 3 games for us?
Look at you. Look at you.
He's got the time.
Well, he does, and could need the money. That is true. That would be hysterical, by the way, if during his 1-year hiatus, if he became a tout for the year. Just 2022, and market it as such. Hey, listen, this is it. It's the only year I can give you free advice.
Brought to you by DraftKings, proud sponsor of the National Football League.
Oh, boy. So, listen, it could be just as simple as, hey, I know a lot of mitigating circumstances, but for me, there's none. And that's clearly what the NFL said here. Hey, he bet on football. He can't do it. He's an active player. He can't bet on the NFL. Plain and simple. Doesn't matter if he was, inactive. Doesn't matter if he had mental health issues at the time, even if they're documented. Don't know what to tell you. This is the one area where, this is baseball's hard line against Pete Rose. Hey, we really only have one rule. It's posted in the clubhouse. You violated it. It's pretty simple. It's right there. It says it right there. Banned for life. I mean, and I will say, you do see it when you walk in a Major League Baseball clubhouse. It's posted. It's right there. There's no ambiguity.
Probably going to start seeing those in football locker rooms now, too. Might as well put a sign up. Always helps, David, if you have signage.
Well, you can put advertising on signage, too. Would it be ironic if it was, DraftKings at the bottom right corner of the sign?
Miller and Moulton, the starting fives on the other side, right here on the Florida Sports Network. Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Cade. God, he's a stud.
This was the one also. We were off the show, and I thought to myself, God, this is stupid. All right, UConn Villanova. Villanova was the one that beat him a month ago, snapped that long streak.
Oh, is there a point spread on it?
And UConn didn't have Paige. She's back, even though she's coming off the bench. And I'm like, and the game was at the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. I'm like, oh, they're gonna fucking whack them.
Was there a spread on it?
I'm
Probably.
sure there was, but I will say the women's spreads come out really late.
How old is Gino, man? He's getting up there. Is Gino in his 70s?
Sure looks it.
He's old.
Thinking the same thing there.
What's that?
Gino looks old.
Oh, I missed you too. I joined the Twitch chat briefly yesterday in the morning. Yeah, it's good to be back. Yeah. Forgot to show Rick Church that one. That's on me.
Final line. It's interesting. It's like when UConn and Tennessee played, there was a line. Prop bets.
Obviously I don't know much about the NHL, but it's kind of a shame that the Coyotes are the franchise that they are when their logo is that cool. I like it.
You know what's interesting for Phoenix being such a huge metropolitan area? I mean, it's, I think, now the 6th largest metro area in the country. It's grown that much.
Wow.
That 2 of their 4 major pro sports franchises are basically dead. The Diamondbacks and the Coyotes could both leave tomorrow.
The Diamondbacks they haven't been relevant in years. And years and years. I mean, what? They hosted an all-star game in 2011? Something like that.
They had one good team in the middle of last decade. Justin Upton, Greinke. They lost in 5 in a best-of-5 first-round series to, I think, Milwaukee. Don't quote me.
But then
actually, that might have been 10 years ago. That might have been like 2011.
And by the way, the Suns used to be in that same kind of.
No, the Suns were never dead. Not from a fan base standpoint.
Never.
The franchise was bad.
Bad.
No.
Yeah.
That's the Dolphins. The Suns in Phoenix are the Dolphins.
First team out there.
Okay. Yeah. Like they were in a bad spot though. For
But there's a difference between
bad
like
and dead.
the hockey and baseball teams are in a bad spot, but they're dead.
Yeah.
I mean, they're in trouble.
I'm happy for the Suns. I like to see them win it.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool.
Yeah.
I will say Chris Paul should be getting more and more MVP votes by the day with him not playing.
There you go. 10 seconds. Ooh, gotta get those sounds for the starting 5.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
Rapidly approaching 20 minutes before the hour. Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. We thank you for joining us on this Tuesday morning. Jam-packed show for you, which includes Pat Kirwan at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. Right now it is time for
The Starting 5. 5 stories you need to know. It's the Starting 5 on Miller and Moulton. Here's number 1.
Well, as we've been talking about throughout the show already this morning, Falcons wide receiver Calvin Ridley suspended for the 2022 season for gambling on NFL games. He placed $1,500 worth of parlay bets Thanksgiving week while on leave in the state of Florida using the no longer available Hard Rock app. Hard Rock, of course, proud sponsor of Hard Rock Stadium, in which the NFL's Miami Dolphins play in. Seems to be some conflicts of interest here.
I know you think so.
No?
No,
Okay, fair enough.
I have complete separation of this.
All right.
I mean, here, again, I'll use the same analogy to you. We can't get drunk on the air, but we can we have all kinds of alcohol sponsors. But I say that because the FCC, this isn't a thing
Right.
with Florida Sports Network. At the end of the day, we work under the FCC umbrella.
That is true. That is true. We could be banned from the airwaves
Correct.
by the FCC. That is true. But
I could say this is brought to you by Miller Lite.
I'd like to try it one time, though. I got to be
I'd
honest.
love to. St. Patrick's Day, just 9 days away.
And it's the first day of the tournament. I think we should. The Packers have reportedly made a long-term offer to Aaron Rodgers that would change the financial landscape for quarterbacks. One would think that it would have to average $50 million a year, right? Mahomes is averaging $45 million a year in his contract. If this is going to be a quote-unquote game changer, then to me, this is a 3-4 year deal at $50 million per. It's probably 4 years, $200 million is my guess. Right now, the Packers are $27 million over the cap. And that doesn't include re-signing Devontae Adams. And 4 o'clock today, Mark, is franchise tag deadline day.
Woohoo!
The Bengals yesterday said they're going to put the franchise tag on safety Jesse Bates. That's a great move. Safety is a position that's very affordable in the grand scheme of things. A little bit of a surprise, I think, that Cleveland decided they're going to put the franchise tag on tight end David Njoku. That's $10.5 million for Njoku. The other tight end, what's it? Hooper is $9.5 million.
Right.
That's $20 million just for your 2 tight ends.
Dangerously looking closer and closer, like the Chicago Bears of a couple of years ago with their multi-tight end unit.
Right. The Chiefs slapped the franchise tag on tackle Orlando Brown. So officially right now the number's at 3.
Right.
Reportedly, though, later today, barring the unforeseen, both the Bucs and Cowboys will slap franchise tags on Chris Godwin and Dalton Schultz, respectively. We shall see. They have until 4 o'clock today to work out a long-term deal. Pat Kirwan to join us in a little less than an hour and a half. Richard Sherman pled guilty to 2 misdemeanors yesterday. You may recall back in the summer, he had that incident with his wife and father-in-law. Wasn't physical, but a lot of yelling. Cops were called. No jail time because he was sentenced to 90 days. He served 2 of those days in custody. They suspended the 88 days on sentence. He's got 2 years probation. He's got to behave.
Suspended sentence, friend of all.
Right. By the way, Richard Sherman, because I think his career's done. I mean, he couldn't stay healthy last year for the Bucs, and he had clearly lost a step even when he was healthy. I would expect one of the networks to gobble him up pretty quickly. The Patriots released linebacker Kyle Van Noy yesterday. They saved $4 million against the cap. New England now has $9 million of which to do some business with, beginning in a little over a week. Major League Baseball, the owners moved yesterday. The owners moved off of the hard line $220 million CBT offer. They upped it to $228 million for year 1 of a 5-year deal. So now the players and the owners are just $10 million apart.
But help me here, David. They moved it to 228, but they also changed the amount of the tax.
Oh, yeah, they made it harder. Right, more punitive. Right. So we'll increase it, but it's now even less likely that teams will spend over $228 million.
It's a really nice headline grabber to say, oh, look what the owners did. But at the same time, they, much like Congress, threw some crap inside of it that the players aren't going to go for.
Also, they're $10 million apart year 1. The players then who want to start at 238 and escalate up to 263, which is roughly, I don't know, $5 million a year, maybe $6 million a year. The owners want to start at 228 and only go up like $2 million a year to 238. So while they're $10 million apart year one, they're $25 million apart year two. Okay.
Year 5.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I said year two. It's year 5. Correct. Now, while the owners have reportedly, given in on this issue a little bit, they've also said to the players, hey, just so you know, if we don't have a deal by tonight, we're going to cancel the second week of games. And if that's the case, there is no way humanly possible for us to play a 162-game season. And so you know what that means? You guys are going to lose service time. You're not going to get credit for a full year. So here, okay, here's the cake and here's the paddle. Carl Ravitch, who's in the know about Major League Baseball. I believe Carl Ravitch is now the new play-by-play voice of Sunday Night Baseball. Carl Ravitch sent out a tweet yesterday in the middle of the day that said, well, it's becoming increasingly obvious we're not going to have a 2022 Major League Baseball season. Season. Not spring training season. Not opening day. He said it's becoming obvious we're not going to play baseball this year.
I think, I was listening to you, David. What I was going to say, it's like there's no way, to me, you can look at this and think that the owners are negotiating in good faith. Hey, we moved off the number, but we added 10 things to it. They keep moving the bar. Every time they make a new concession, it comes with 3 or 4 caveats to it. I don't believe that the owners right now are negotiating in good faith.
Here's the irony. If the players were to accept the owner's proposal, the owners can't guarantee they've got the votes on their end to approve it. So basically, the negotiator for the owners, who's desperately trying to make a deal, said, we'll go to 228. Meanwhile, you can hear in the back room, what? We're doing what? NBA news, Greg Popovich tied Don Nelson all-time wins list, 1,335. That seems like a lot. Spurs beat the Lakers. LeBron didn't play, 117-110.
Oh, we'll break down if the Lakers are going to make the playoffs later on in the show.
No, we're not. But
don't worry, every show after us for the rest of the day will.
What is this, ESPN?
On a 3 or 4-letter network. The Heat beat the Rockets by 17, so that's a win and a cover. And Victor Oladipo made his season debut with 11 points for Miami. Sixers beat the Bulls by 15. We said, would this be contender tapping pretender on the head? And it was last night. The Dallas-Utah game was chippy. And those two teams right now would meet in a first-round series. I mean chippy.
That would be a great series.
It would. It'd be a 4-5 matchup. Dallas won at home, 111-103. Luka had to be separated from the Jazz twice. So
that's right. We did give you the Sixers last night, too.
No. We gave 4 winners last night between 9:53 and 9:55. We gave you 4 betting winners yesterday. Denver beat the Warriors, who, let me tell you, are losing a lot.
Yes, they are.
131-124. And I'm telling you, the T-Wolves playing some good ball. They beat Portland by 43. Pistons and Knicks, both winners yesterday as well. College hoops, it'll be Gonzaga against St. Mary's in the West Coast Conference Final. The only 2 ranked teams in action last night. Gonzaga won by 10, St. Mary's by 3. Georgia State's your Sun Belt champion. We told you to take them and lay the 2. They beat the Ragin' Cajuns 80-71. And Chattanooga wins the SoCon at the overtime buzzer with a 3, 64-63. Women's hoops, UConn wins the Big East. UT Arlington wins the Sun Belt in their final year in the Sun Belt. So that's a conference that if you're leaving, still lets you play. They're in the minority these days. We have not 1, not 2, but 3, but 4 bids going out tonight. The Summit between North Dakota State and South Dakota State. The Colonial between UNC Wilmington and Delaware. The Horizon between Wright State and Northern Kentucky. And the A-Sun between Jacksonville and Bellarmine. Remember, if Bellarmine wins, they can't go to the tournament. Jacksonville State would actually go to the tournament, who got beat by Jacksonville in the semifinals. If Jacksonville wins, they get to go. They haven't been to the tournament forever, by the way.
Some big boy conferences get going tonight, but nothing really worth paying. No bubble-licious, really. It doesn't start till tomorrow when the bubble teams get in action.
ACC, Georgia Tech, Louisville, BC and Pitt, and NC State and Clemson get underway tonight. NHL, Panthers 6-1 over Buffalo. Toronto 5-4 over Columbus. Colorado 5-4 over the Islanders. Calgary 3-1 on Edmonton. Kings scored late in regulation, then won it in overtime against the Bruins 3-2. NHL announces they suspend any and all relationship with the KHL. That's the major Russian hockey league. And the news broke during our show yesterday, but to remind you, Bryson DeChambeau still not yet ready to play because of two different injuries and withdrew from the Players' Championship. And that was
the starting five every weekday morning at this time on Miller and Moulton.
Well, if baseball suspends a second week, and I don't expect a deal by tonight, do you?
No.
That takes them up to basically April 14th, which I have said has to be the latest opening day can be. Opening day on the 14th, Jackie Robinson Day the next day, the 75th anniversary, and okay, you can begin the season and, mitigate the damage.
All right, May 1st, May 5th. I'll give you four choices. April 14th, May 1st, May 14th, June 1st. Right now. I'll throw it even at you what you like to do. $20.
Nothing before May. Nothing at all. I would expect May 1st, though, over the 15th, but nothing before May would be my bet right now.
How much did Carl Ravage's tweet freak you out?
Absolutely freaked me out. He's in the know. It's his livelihood, by the way. It's the number one thing he does is Major League Baseball. And he just got the Sunday Night Baseball gig. He's worked at ESPN for 30 years. He just got the plum assignment of his career. And he does not send tweets like that out at all. Oh, yeah. Stop me in my tracks. I went, damn. So, take it for what it's worth.
We'll find more out about the Calvin Ridley case next hour. Dan Luss, sports attorney and professor at New York Law School, will join us. Pat Kirwan at 8 o'clock. Shelby Mast will join us on the show today for a little bracketology as the one-bid leagues are wrapping up and the big boys are about to get going. And Mark Zinno will join us to talk more NFL in the bonus hour locally.
And in Zinno's case, he's based out of Atlanta. He's covered the Falcons forever, but also now he's heavily involved in VSiN and sports betting. And so, want to talk about both. And can they coexist at the same time, or is there just a wall in between the two? Or is there a door somewhere in the wall?
If there's a door, it's like one of those hidden doors to get into the secret room to have the really cool drink. Miller and Moulton, neither of those. Florida Sports Network.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. And use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free
14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Yes, I hit the button. Archangel, I'm hitting the button. Every time I hit the button.
Go Raiders. I wonder if LA isn't the West Coast equivalent of Florida, or Miami is what I'm assuming you're meaning. In our Twitch chat room, is wondering if Phoenix is basically the West Coast equivalent to Miami in terms of it being a transient, sports type city. And you could argue the Suns and the Dolphins are equal, and that basically the Cardinals and the Heat are kind of.
Yeah, I didn't know if he meant that. I thought he meant Florida's transient people. That's why I thought, because everybody moves there from somewhere else.
Right. Well, there are a shit ton of people who have moved to Phoenix from California to get away from the taxes.
My roommate's in Phoenix right now. It's beautiful.
It's great, but rush hour traffic's Atlanta.
Oof.
It's bad. It is bad.
Atlanta rush hour is no joke.
What's that?
Phoenix traffic is awful.
It's gotta be.
And not only that, the airport's too close to downtown. So it's just, whew.
Mark, I'm getting yesterday's podcast up now.
Awesome.
Come back.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Thank you so much for being with us. We will talk about the legal complexities and angle to the Calvin Ridley suspended for a year story. Dan Lust, who's a sports attorney and a professor at New York Law School, will join us in a little more than 30 minutes time. Pat Kirwan, 1 hour from now. Bracketology with Shelby Mast in an hour and a half. Who's in, who's out, and just how many teams really are on the bubble. And how many wins will it take for an Indiana, for a Florida to get themselves in? And could one of the teams, Mark, that won over the weekend, a Memphis, a Michigan, say, with a first-round conference tournament loss, could they play their way back out? It is interesting to see, quick sidebar here, the difference in, well, bracketology between the Shelby Mast, between the guy with CBS Sports, who's got it, like, he's got Florida, I think, like first or second team out.
Jerry Palm had him second team out last night.
Yeah, Shelby's got him like fifth or sixth team out.
Right.
Obviously, it's a big difference.
Huge.
You're one or two teams out, maybe one big win in a conference tournament gets you in. You're 5-6 out. You probably need 2 wins over tournament teams in a conference tournament to get in.
Well, and you know, who is it? Is it Florida? Who Indiana? Who out there can steal a bid?
Right.
Because right now, there's no small conference tournaments where the number one was getting in either way.
Yeah, Loyola Chicago was the one that most people thought would sneak in as an at-large.
Murray State maybe the other.
Right, and
they both won.
So
Gonzaga's playing St. Mary's tonight. They were both in anyhow. That conference
correct.
is getting 4 in more than likely.
Well, and that's, I think, now the question. Are we sure it's 4? Because the 3 and 4 teams got beat in the semis. Are we sure they're in? You know.
Well, and they set that up so that 1 and 2 went right to the semifinals.
Right.
3 and 4 went right to the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Very interesting how the West Coast Conference did that. I'm not even saying it's wrong, just very interesting how they did that. We do have a poll question up. We used Calvin Ridley, and I went Goldilocks. Was suspension for Calvin Ridley too long, too short, or just right?
Wow. It's very simplistic, but sometimes simple is the best.
Want to see if anybody votes too short. People are freaking out on social media because of all of the domestic violence suspensions that have been 2 games, 4 games, etc. And Calvin Ridley getting a year for gambling. One has nothing to do with the other. You could argue that the suspensions for domestic violence are far too short and that the league should have handled things better when it comes to those incidents. But you cannot sit there and try to make comparisons to one suspension versus another, particularly when one suspension has to do with the integrity of the game.
Oh, well, why not?
I don't think you can. You can all day if you want. I am not going to compare suspensions. First off, suspensions from years ago now. How long was the Ray Rice suspension? How long ago was that?
I think it was around 2015.
So it's tough for me to compare any 7-year-old suspension for something different than this one. They're all separate issues.
Well, the NFL basically just handed down the same punishment for a violation that took place in 1964. So I don't think going back 7 years is
separate incidents, separate ideas, separate things.
Well, I could actually argue we've evolved both ways, that our attitudes towards gambling, I mean, 40, 50 years ago, I mean, oh my goodness, gambling on sports. Oh, what is wrong with you? You should be just taken out back and beaten.
40, 50 years ago, but by 50 years ago, yes. By 40 years ago, Jimmy the Greek was running on the pregame gambling stuff. They have played both sides of this for 4 decades.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have, which is kind of the
and they're going to continue to play both sides.
Well, and they can. I mean, it's like the WWE. They can do whatever they want. But also you can say that our views have evolved towards domestic violence and other things in which we now take them much more seriously.
We do. So the NFL, I don't know if they do.
Ray Rice beating his fiance originally got 2 games. Once video emerged, I believe it became 6, but he was essentially blackballed.
Yes, he was done.
Nobody touched him. Adrian Peterson, felony child abuse, got 6 games. Greg Hardy beating his girlfriend, 10 games, reduced to 4. And that was the one, violent, guns everywhere. She was absolutely scared for her life. Ezekiel Elliott, for something I believe he did in college, got 6 games. Calvin Ridley gets 17 games for using FanDuel or DraftKings or the Hard Rock app. You know what I mean. And I will say, you still to this day, although I think they're just now going to be more lenient about their marijuana suspensions. But, you smoke weed and you fail a couple of drug tests, you get a year, at least. I don't know if it matters. I don't know if one has anything to do with the other.
I don't think it does.
I think it's a horrible look, though. I think it's a horrible look. I understand the whole integrity of the game. Here's why I don't think that. First off, does it truly matter? Okay, if you bet on your team to win versus if you were to not bet on them to win. Because that's what some who defended Pete Rose said, was that whenever he placed a bet, even those that were taking his bets said, well, he never bet on the Reds to lose.
Right, but when he didn't bet on him, what was he saying?
Well, when Danny Jackson pitched, right?
Come on now.
I understand, but it's the difference between throwing a game or not.
As the manager, I don't think we're going to win, so I'm not betting on us.
Well, clearly that's what it said. But you're not doing something as manager of the game because you have money on it.
So it sounds like you'd be okay with players betting on sports.
Well, I don't think I'd be okay with them betting on their own team. I don't.
I'm not okay with them betting on any team. They're all friends. They all know what's going on.
But if you bet on
the equipment managers, you want the equipment managers to be able to bet too? Because they can all talk to one another. You can't have betting inside the locker room. And David, you're right. It's a terrible look. It is. Because domestic violence is far worse than gambling. I get it. But the one has to do with the integrity of the sport. The other is a societal issue that's as bad in football as it is in every other probably walk of life.
You got to remember when baseball had their hardline approach about gambling, it goes all the way back to the beginning of the game. They weren't making any money. You do have to acknowledge nowadays, even minimum salaries are over $500,000. Now, it's not to say you can't place a bet for more than that, but players are being pretty well compensated nowadays. You could make the case 80, 90, 100 years ago that baseball was freaking out, that wagers could be made which would be equal to or large portions of their salary.
100%.
Now those bets would have to be substantial for it to be the same analogy. And that's why and I'm not advocating for them to bet on the games that they're playing in, because clearly it could go wrong. Okay, but you do have to acknowledge with what they are making today, the likelihood is that the bet would be far less significant than what it would have been back in the day.
Yes, I'm sure that you're right. But just based on the ESPN 30 for 30 broke and how these athletes have had the ability to burn through huge amounts of cash in a very short time.
Yep.
I can't live in a world where I'm saying, you know what? If you want to go ahead and make a bet on a game, go ahead. I can't do that. And again, David, I'm with you. I think you know that I'm with you. When you sit and stack these side by side in the punishments, you're right. It's a terrible look. But can we all be smart enough to understand that these are all separate incidents and we can't lump every suspension in together?
Well, but then my argument would be, does this have to be a year? Does the penalty in 2022 have to be the penalty of 1964? Especially in the case that he was not on the active roster. He was on unpaid leave for mental health reasons.
The unpaid part has me most intrigued because to me, once you're unpaid, I know you're technically an employee, but once you're not getting paid by him,
he could not. See, I get, you're Paul Hornung, you're an active player. Even if you bet on your team to win, you could do something during the game that otherwise you would normally not do. Why? Because you had money on it. Calvin Ridley is in Jacksonville, taking out his cell phone, placing a bet on the Hard Rock app, Thanksgiving week, visiting with friends. He has no influence in any way, shape, or form over anything. What he did may look bad. It may be unseemly, but what we're worried about is the integrity of the game. Calvin Ridley did not impugn the integrity of any NFL game when he placed those bets. We would have to agree on that, right?
Yes.
But yet the punishment is the same as if he could have.
The only thing I don't know is that he had the ability, because of who he knows and who he can talk to get a lot of information that most of us couldn't get.
True. Absolutely.
But I can't lump all of the same penalties into the same bowl and look at them equally. I just can't. I can separate them. If other people can't, that's their choice.
FSN Radio, if you've never texted before, FSN Radio, all one word, send your text to 21,000, 21000, and then you're in the club, so to speak. And if you're already in the club, let us know what's on your mind. Please vote in the poll question. Calvin Ridley's punishment. Too harsh, too soft, just right. How'd you vote?
I voted just right.
I voted too soft. I'm sorry, too harsh. I think there's extenuating circumstances here.
Said earlier on the show, David and I can advertise for alcohol, but we can't get sloshed on the air. Texter says, I don't know. Most of your takes sound like you've been drinking all day.
Well
Touché,
played.
Touche.
Well played. 13 minutes after the hour, Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Saw it yesterday.
Jeez.
How the hell did Ray Rice only get 6 games for all that?
First off, he originally got 2.
Or, yeah.
There was no video of it. He got 2.
And then the video
Once
came
the
out.
video emerged, he got 6, which basically became a lifetime ban. The reason he only got 6, I think at the time in the CBA, that was the harshest penalty they could give him. I think. Don't quote me.
But, okay, I guess that would make more sense.
God, in a tough light. I went from playing in like the 4th, 5th flight in this thing. You know
Yeah.
what happens when you bring a 2.1 handicap in?
But Mark, what I was trying to say was, would you have a problem if they were betting on the Super Bowl then?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
It's like a holiday. And they're not even a part of it.
Are they in the league?
Yes.
Then they're part of it. You can't have current players start gambling because then they could get into a hole. And I know it's all legal, but there's still too many bookies, too many people out there, too many areas, too many gray areas.
Yeah. A diva wide receiver with a gambling addiction is a recipe for disaster.
Ridley suspension.
A non-diva. What?
Ridley suspension too short. Sincerely, P. Rose.
Fam, I think there was such outrage over the Ray Rice. I think each team individually chose not to. See, if you're the league, you can't do something like that because if by chance some evidence comes out, then you open yourself up to a lawsuit.
As long as everybody's in here, hit the follow button. I don't really care what your opinions are. If you haven't hit the follow button, then your opinions are off. You want your opinions to be right? Follow Miller and Moulton on Twitch. Then all your opinions are right for the rest of the week.
I think it was a bad look, Canada Relief, as I remember, about Janet Gretzky.
There's never been a bad look ever about Janet Gretzky. Paulina, I would say there's been some bad looks. She's too thin. Wayne took her right out of acting, right from what was it, American Anthem, right to the Gretzky compound.
Yep. I said, you're done.
One gymnastics movie, and then she's out. Done.
Yep. Harry did the same with Meghan. All right. Went from Suits and a couple of Hallmark movies. Nope, that's it. You're done.
How does it always go back to Harry and Meghan?
Because it's just so funny.
Had a horrible moment yesterday in the house. My daughter's playing on her tablet, and there's some sort of pop song on there, and she really liked it. Got to end that quickly.
Well, the difference is
because she's going to play it repeatedly over and over again.
Hops, the difference is what Joe Mixon did was in college, and therefore the league looked at it differently. Also, there was no video. If there was video of Joe Mixon, I don't think he ever plays in the league. Short segment here. What do you want to do?
I got some texts.
Good.
Man, and Ray Rice was good.
Although at the time he looked like he was beginning to slow down because he was a small back, and he had his worst year in the league that year, and that was actually going to be a year where we found out has he hit the wall and he's on the downside, or was he just hurt the year before?
$15 seconds.
There was video of Mixon? Really?
Yeah, there was.
With the Oklahoma incident?
Yes.
Huh.
From the bar video.
Thanks for listening. And now, more of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
20 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. Thanks so much for listening. FloridaSportsNetwork.com, by the way. Follow us on Twitter at FL Sports Network. You can follow each of us individually. That Mark Miller, the David Moulton. Coming up in about 15 minutes' time, we'll find out whether or not Calvin Ridley's got a legal defense to what it is that the NFL just handed down. Dan Lust, a sports attorney, professor, New York Law School, will join us. Sorry, Mark.
Oh, we got a couple of texts. If you want to text the show, the keyword is FSN Radio. You text that keyword to 21,000 if you have not done so already. If you have, you know the drill. Then you can text as much as you want. Like this person said, the Ridley suspension, too short. Sincerely, Pete Rose.
Cute.
This person says, poll interesting. Wonder how it breaks down by age. I bet, pun intended, everyone over 40 voted just right.
Ridley suspended a year in case you missed it.
How'd you vote?
I said it was too harsh.
Right.
Yeah, I'm over 40, though.
I know. They proving this gentleman wrong right off the bat.
Right.
You're not get off my lawn guy. You're bet on my lawn guy.
Right. Well, I can be get off my lawn guy, just not. I do think there are extenuating circumstances here. I actually think this was a perfect case for Goodell to then say, listen, we didn't give him a year, whether you want to cite the mental health, whether you want to cite the fact he was not on an active roster at the time. And I think this is going to get knocked down. I really do. I think he will win on some sort of appeal. He will get it knocked down.
To what, 8?
Maybe 10. I mean, I do think it'll be over half the season. I think it should be over half the season. But a full year, I don't know about that. There's a couple of extenuating circumstances that I think are legit.
Obviously, we pointed out he was not getting paid. He was on leave, unpaid leave. And also he was on unpaid leave because of citing mental health issues.
Right. And he never came back to the team. He left after week 5 and he was gone the rest of the year.
Because it was 2 or 3 weeks that we didn't know why he was gone, right?
Right.
It took a while before the Falcons and Ridley to say he had left the team and why he had left the team.
Right. They're protecting him, which a team should do.
It's our poll question. What do you think of the suspension? I went Goldilocks, too long, too short, just right. A little over 50% of you right now saying it's too long. Looks like one of you voted that it was too short. Pete Rose in Southwest Florida voting on the too short.
Well, it is a legitimate point to make. I mean, if you're worried about the integrity of the game, threaten a lifetime ban, which is harsh, obviously.
And Joe Banner suggested that?
Joe Banner thought 1 year was too soft. Former Eagles executive who's now part of the 33rd team, which is a really good site, by the way. Lots of good, solid information. I mean, it's a nooks and crannies hardcore football site, but it's good. And yeah, Joe Banner thinks, and believe it or not, Andrew Brandt seems to think that, and Andrew Brandt as a lawyer and a former agent can find the gray in just about everything. But so far, based on what Andrew Brandt has tweeted out, that he seems to indicate that, yeah, if you're the NFL, it's got to be at least a year here. This is something you can't play around with.
First time texter says, I'm really old at 66, and I think it's way too harsh. So thanks for texting, and thanks for proving the ageist wrong.
This is a very serious question. Does it matter what kind of bet was placed?
No, not to me.
Well, that's why I asked.
Not to me. If you're betting on football, you're betting on football. Because what I would be most worried about, David, I have a bit of an addictive personality.
What?
I know. Seems shocking to you. I've gone down the rabbit hole of gambling. Lost a lot of money. Chased. Had to pay the man. I don't really gamble much anymore. I'll still make a bet. I make on average 5 bets a football season. And it's about all that I bet anymore. Wish I was betting college basketball because, damn, I've been pretty solid at it lately. But when you're betting Sacramento Kings second halves for a nickel, you then have a problem. Which is how I responded to Calvin yesterday. He's like, I spent $1,500. I don't have a gambling problem. I'm like, until you're throwing a nickel on the Kings in the second half numbers. No, I agree with you, Calvin. You don't have a problem. But you could get to one really easily.
I'll say this. When you've lost all day on college football and you bet the Hawaii game, then
you have a
you're
problem.
Right there. You're right up to the door that says problem on it.
I mean, Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football have just done wonders for gamblers to chase. And as someone who is chased, I know how quickly you can go from having a little fun to gambling being a little bit of a problem. I can't have the players in my league gambling, period. Can't.
So they can't gamble on games that they're not in.
They can't gamble the games they're in either.
Well, obviously they can't gamble the games that they're in.
They can't be gambling on football.
All right. But you can sign up for DraftKings. Make sure you type in the promo code
Calvin Ridley.
Someone, Adam, in our Twitch chat room saying, well, the good news for Ridley, he can go play for the USFL in a month and claw back some of that money. That would be outstanding. Outstanding if he did that. Obviously, risk injury. His agent would never advise him to do it and the whole deal, but that would be great. Tampa Bay Bandits, I have no idea who their quarterback is, but, that'd be outstanding. So a few folks have agreed with both of us, although it would not have altered your suspension, Mark. It alters mine, but I think that the mental health angle, Debbie here says it needs to be reduced. The mental health angle makes it really difficult to say, quote, he should have known better. I mean, one can argue that he was not of the right state of mind. I mean, you can argue it. Don't know if it's a winning argument, but you can argue it. I mean, you would have to agree if you're the NFL. Well, he was out on unpaid leave because of, his mental health was not where it needed to be in order for him to be a productive member of the team. And then the lawyer could say, well, then is it that far of a leap to conclude that his mental health was in a state in which he didn't realize that what he was doing was this severe?
And Ryan comes at me, so DraftKings is out for you, Mark. How many players have fantasy teams? Not much different. I think it's monumentally different. Unless they're playing in fantasy leagues for $10,000, $20,000, $50,000. I mean, I played in a fantasy league that was $1,000 a team. It breaks down to about $70 a week. Not even that.
No.
It's like $60. Not even, a little less than $60 a week.
Now,
but when at
the time, a little over 60.
I don't consider fantasy football gambling. I don't. Not season-long fantasy. You could argue daily fantasy is a little different, but I still don't think that's...
If you're the NFL, how far are you taking this gambling thing? You find out that a bunch of guys on the Green Bay Packers who were not in the Super Bowl were involved in the squares. And say it was for significant money. The Packers as a team had squares on the Super Bowl. It was $500 a square.
They're not gambling on a game.
Yeah, sure they are.
Not gambling on the outcome.
Well, in a way they are. They're gambling on the outcome of each quarter.
What could those squares have done? How do they influence the score on those squares?
How could Calvin Ridley have influenced
He could have inside information. I don't know how insider information on squares can't do anything. When I make a bet on a game, I could have information that I know from a trainer, from another player.
No, I get that, but he may have information, but he doesn't have influence in any way over the game.
Well, do you think that the players are the only people that have inside information?
No. No.
That's why I said equipment managers can't bet on games as well.
Right.
That's why it's so dangerous for the league. I mean, broadcasters have inside information. And broadcasters get inside information in enough time to place bets if they wanted to. I mean, there are Saturday night production meetings before Sunday football games. And
for the record, Moulton's never given me any inside information. I've been waiting for it for years.
No. Absolutely not. In fact, what's funny is there are times in which coaches seem sincere and they are telling you, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and this is where we think we have the edge and what have you. And oftentimes it's like, hey, what he told us last night, they're not doing any of it. What happened to this special teams edge we heard about? So I could see why the NFL would be draconian and hardline. I mean, this is your worst nightmare. This is honestly, it's worse than anything else you can imagine.
Well, the only thing that's in the same ballpark is Stephen Ross and telling his team to throw games. That's actually worse.
And that's why they'll go get another one, look just like
You
him,
got it.
if they conclude that, in fact, he wanted them to throw games. Even though as owner, you could then argue how much influence did he have in them throwing the game, since the coach disavowed what it is the owner wanted done. 29 minutes before the hour, we'll talk to Dan Lust about whether or not Calvin Ridley's got a legal case against the National Football League. He's a sports attorney and professor at New York Law School. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Spring forward. Mark, betting is fun.
Who said that?
Buckley.
Damn right, Tom.
I was so salty that Harden didn't play on Saturday.
Oh, it's going to be a rude awakening, Felipe, for either Miami or Philadelphia when they get Brooklyn in the first round.
I want it to be Miami and have them get knocked out just to see you be miserable. But I actually like the Heat enough that I don't want that to happen.
Come on, it's got to be Philly. We got to have Brooklyn play Philly for the whole Ben Simmons thing, don't we?
Right, that'd be the most righteous choice. That would be righteous, but we keep winning and they keep losing.
Who? Who did you play? Who did FGCU season's over?
Look, I think I've earned my Wii for the Heat.
How many games have you played for him?
About 27. I'm in a two-way contract right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Heat keep winning and the Nets keep losing, which is horrible. It's the last thing we need.
Right. That's why I said it's going to be a hell of a reward for either Miami as the one or Philly as the two to turn around and see Brooklyn with KD and Kyrie, because Kyrie will be playing every game by then.
Terrible.
I had to laugh. I asked my daughter because I didn't realize most kids. I go, Maddie, how many kids are wearing masks in school? She goes, not that many. I go, do you want to still wear it? She goes, yep.
Really?
One of her best friends' mom has cancer.
Huh.
Maddie takes it very personally with Victoria that she doesn't want to ever get Victoria sick to then get her mom sick.
Interesting.
Scares the shit out of her.
Dead streak. I only watched one NBA game.
I told her, I said, that's fine. I said, so you're in. I go, just so you know, when you're outside, and I go, Victoria's not in after school. So if you don't want to wear it in after school, you don't have to. I go, if no one's wearing it, Maddie, you're not doing it because I'm telling you to. Eve kind of jumped my shit a little bit for it last. I'm like, are you serious? I go, come on. She goes, well, she's not been vaccinated. I go, yeah, I know. We let her go to church. We let her go everywhere else. She doesn't want to wear it. She doesn't have to wear it. I don't know what to tell you.
Outside.
Well, they don't wear them outside anyhow.
Okay.
I just said after school. I go, if you want to wear it inside, wear it inside. Go, good for you.
Yeah, it was a hell of a game. Remember when I said Tatum was a hybrid of Julius Erving and Melo? I still think that.
Okay.
He's going to win an MVP one day.
All right. Give Dan a call.
Yeah, I got it. Sorry.
It's Daniel Wallach, right?
Yes.
Buddy? Because he's the other half of Conduct Detrimental.
Dan's on hold.
Awesome. Thank you. Wait, did anybody catch Terry Bradshaw's rant about announcers' pay the other day? Well, it was very complimentary to Troy. He's like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, come on, dude. Troy's laughed at your halftime promos for 20 years.
10 seconds.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes before the hour. Thanks for being with us. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. He's a sports attorney. He's a law professor, and he's co-host along with our buddy Daniel Wallach of the Conduct Detrimental podcast. He's Dan Lust. You can follow Dan on Twitter at Sports Law Lust. That's Sports Law Lust. Dan, it's David and Mark. Thanks for your time. How are you?
Good morning, guys. I'm good. If you can hear, my voice is a little shot as I've been jumping up and down on sports a little last week. Let's just say we've been busy on our end.
All right. Well, this Calvin Ridley case, with this is the NFL's worst nightmare of having players bet on games. We've been toying with a few different things. Dan, just first off, throwing it in underhanded, this suspension a year, do you think it's too harsh?
I mean, if we're just looking in a vacuum of gambling, right, it's not really that harsh. Pete Rose was banned for, the Hall of Fame for life. There have been other suspensions in football. It's not that crazy. I mean, you can look and say, hey, it's $1,500. That's not that much money. Why is it a year? If you look in the global scheme of football, right, then it gets a little more tricky. You have domestic violence allegations, child abuse allegations. Those warrant 6 to 8 games. Meanwhile, betting $1,500 on a game in the privacy of your own home is worth a year, right? And Josh Gordon, his issues with marijuana, that's warranting of a, basically years worth of a suspension. I'm not really sure how to make sense of those, but at least within the gambling context, I get it. I get it. Betting on your own team to win or lose. We know in sports that's taboo. And, I hate to be the stickler, right? But rules are rules. I think everyone knew that law. They've known that for obviously years and years.
Dan, does Calvin have any sort of legal case? Because now in the last 3 years, we obviously have the cross section of gambling and professional sports, where really up until damn near the 2020s, it was taboo. I mean, it was only like 8 years ago that Tony Romo was threatened with banishment from the league because he wanted to have a fantasy festival in Las Vegas, and now we're going to have a Super Bowl there. So does he have any sort of legal grounds, not just within the NFL, but outside the NFL to appeal?
I mean, I guess in a first sense, I think he has 3 days to appeal his suspension. So that's the first legal benchmark. We'll see what happens there. There's a chance he appeals it and the NFL knocks it down. I don't think that'll happen. And then we should probably address the elephant, even in the room on Twitter. that Calvin Ridley basically admitted to these allegations, right? He's saying he bet 1,500. He knows what he did was wrong. So I think from a, did he do it? Did he not do it? I don't think he really has any appeal because he admitted to it. But you raised an interesting point, and this is one that I raised online last night. For I think the last available NFL rule book that's available online, and I believe it's still the case as of today, that NFL players can bet or wager, we'll say, up to $250 on fantasy sports. So there is some allowance to play fantasy, yet there's a zero tolerance rule on sports betting. I'm not really sure why that would be. I think the NFL makes a lot of money off of both industries, fantasy sports and pure sports betting. I don't know what the legal case necessarily is, right? Because as much as it's, a little hypocritical that the NFL is kind of in bed with these sports betting operators, rules are rules. And for whatever reason, the NFL has drawn the line, zero tolerance with sports betting and some tolerance with respect to fantasy sports. I don't really understand it, but, I think everyone knows the rule. I think maybe some people didn't know that fantasy sports rule, but certainly people knew the sports betting rule. So, NFL's a private entity, right? You don't have a right to do something that the employer tells you not to do. You can do it, but then you're jeopardizing your employment, which is kind of what Calvin Ridley did. So I don't see a legal case here, but certainly it shows the NFL to be quite hypocritical. And then, guys, we'll see how that impacts the Stephen Ross stuff. I think I find that avenue very fascinating.
Well, thank you, Dan, because that's where I wanted to go. I mean, obviously, a player betting on the game, that is a terrible look. And I've tried to – I think I've been the one getting the most heat on our show from our listeners because I'm fine with the year and I'm fine with justifying it because you can't have players, whether it's $1,500 or $550,000. To me, it doesn't matter. But to your point, if Stephen Ross, if there's any there to the $100,000, Dan, there's no way he can keep his franchise, is there?
I think so. I said this even before the Calvin Ridley stuff. If you, as Roger Goodell, have set the benchmark for betting any amount of money on your own team, right? I think there's an interesting hypothetical we could do. If Calvin Ridley didn't bet on the Falcons, would he still get a year? Probably, but I think he might have a little bit more of an argument. Stephen Ross's allegations that he directly impacted the team that he owns, right? At best, right? Calvin Ridley's dealing with inside information. He's one of X amount of players on the roster. Stephen Ross owns the team. He's the boss, right? He can tell everybody beneath him what to do in theory. So from a power and authority level to also the amount of dollars involved, $100 per loss or $100,000 per loss. Yeah, I now that we have the benchmark of what Calvin Ridley did, if established, what Stephen Ross did, I don't know what we're talking about sports betting. What do you want to put the odds at? Like minus 10,000, right? I would think. You never know. But again, at the end of the day, guys, the NFL is a business of protecting themselves, and it's never happened. An owner in professional sports has never been forced to sell their team by a league. People will say Donald Sterling. It didn't happen. That was the probate courts. Marge Schott voluntarily sold her team. So it should result in him having to sell his team. But then again, it's never happened. So, who knows? I think it should, but we'll see if Goodell really wants to force the issue.
He's Dan Lust. He's a sports attorney and law professor, and along with Daniel Wallach, they host a great podcast. It's called Conduct Detrimental. You can follow Dan on Twitter at Sports Law Lust. That's Sports Law Lust. Are there extenuating circumstances in your estimation? He was not on the active roster. He was, because of mental health reasons, he was not getting paid and not with the team after week 5. Either the mental health reasons or the unpaid leave reason. Do you think that either one is a legitimate mitigating circumstance to reduce the penalty?
I see. I guess we should go through Calvin Ridley's tweets, right? He said last night, I think that was at a period of time where he couldn't watch football. And, people will remember last year, Calvin Ridley walked away from the team. And when I saw this story yesterday, my first inclination was that it was a forced walk away from the team because the team was aware that he was gambling. That actually turned out to not be true. The Falcons only found out, I think, basically a month ago. So completely unrelated. I think if there was a world where Ridley argued, hey, I was so out of my mind. I was so, not myself. I was having mental health issues. And, I don't even remember making the bet. why would I ever make a bet on my own name? I think he bet with the Hard Rock Casino app. Maybe there's a lane there, but that's why, I make the joke on Twitter a lot, right? Plead the fifth, admit to nothing. And the fact that Calvin Ridley now, right, I assume he's somewhat in a better place mentally, is acknowledging what he did. And this version of Calvin Ridley, the one that seems to be in improved position mental health-wise, at least from all, at least what we're seeing, he's acknowledging what he did was wrong. He goes, I know what I did was wrong. So I think he's going to have a hard time saying that, mental health was really an issue because he's acknowledging kind of culpability. And the fact that he was away from the team, I don't really think it matters because he's betting on his own team, right? This is that interesting, thought experiment that we could have, that Wallach and I are going to have tonight on the podcast. But if he bet on a different team, right, he doesn't have any inside information in theory, right? So just me as a human being, I don't really see the problem with that.
So Dan,
betting on your own team, though.
So Dan, the fact that the Falcons game was one of the games included in the parlays is significant to you. But if he had left the Falcons out of his parlay, you would feel differently?
Well, the question, if you look at Goodell's statement, it's impropriety, right? So I don't know if he's betting on the Giants versus the Jets. What does he know about either of those two teams? But betting on the Falcons, I think, is going to be the NFL sticking point. That's Pete Rose, right? That's whether Pete Rose bet on the Reds to win or lose. I think he's admitting to betting on the Reds. So, that's the precedent of sports that we know very well.
Dan, at the end of the day, do you think this will get reduced?
No, I don't think so. Maybe it should, but I don't think so. And then the bigger question, especially for you guys in Florida, how does that impact the world, the national legislative landscape of sports betting? Are you going to have some stickler politicians stand up and say, this is the reason, Calvin Ridley is the reason that sports betting cannot be legal in my state? Who knows? Stranger things have been the catalyst to knock down laws across the country, be it marijuana, be it poker. So we'll see. That's my fear in this, that some non-sports fan politician is going to stand up and the name Calvin Ridley will be heard in legislatures across the country as the reason sports betting should not be legal. And that's my fear coming out of all this. It just came at a really inopportune time.
It is ironic, Dan, that Calvin Ridley is suspended for a year for betting on the NFL using an app that is the title sponsor of a stadium that an NFL team plays in, number one, and number two, an app that was part of an illegal gambling compact, which has now been thrown out. And the app no longer exists.
It was we'll say a perfect storm. That little small window that it was loud in Florida, that's what brings it down. So, yeah, maybe the world at large will now know about these Florida tribunal cases that Wallach and I have been following. But we'll dive into it. We'll explore. We'll see. We'll see if there's any other players here too. I think that's the elephant in the room, right? If Calvin Ridley was this rogue player, obviously made the mistake of betting in his own name. It's much easier to bet in someone else's name, right? To bet through a sibling, bet through a friend. We'll see how many, if this opens up Pandora's box here.
Just don't force me to read another IGRA law. That's all. I can't do it anymore, Dan. I can't. I'm past it.
We'll do it for you. Just ask the lawyers next time. We got this.
Dan Lust, sports attorney, law professor, and he and Daniel Wallach will tonight tape another podcast of Conduct Detrimental. You can follow Dan on Twitter at Sports Law Lust. Dan, thanks for making time with us. Hot tea and lemon for the voice, okay?
Understood. Thanks, guys.
Dan Lust, kind enough to join us here on Miller and Moulton.
Yeah, I'm going through his Twitter line. I almost went in a couple different directions because he's been tweeting on, you got the Brittany Griner case going on in Russia with her and her vape pens. You've got the Stephen Ross. He has been busy. Andrew Brandt said it, David. There will be lawyers. There will be lawyers.
Could you make the case that Ridley posting his views and thoughts on Twitter can actually bolster the fact that his mental health is not 100%?
I think his lawyer will. But to Dan's point, his tweets are, I know I made a mistake. I'll just be healthier next year. I mean, he had a running stream of consciousness, or so it seemed, yesterday afternoon.
He goes by Ugly Bag of Water in our Twitch chat room and said two things: fantasy sports with less of a direct link to game outcomes. Well, obviously, But the second one, he believes that the NFL, as they get more and more tied to sports betting, they'll have to maintain this firewall, if you will, much more strictly. A hard firewall, as he called it.
I think he's right. And I think, and I've maintained throughout the show, that I think you can separate the two. I think the fact that there are lots of things in our everyday life with our jobs that we can't do while we work that we can do outside of work. And I think this is just a similar thing. There are rules to which these players have. We've all had to abide by certain rules because of our jobs. This is one of their rules. It sucks for them. They can't gamble on it. They're compensated just fine.
If he had not included the Falcons game in the parlay, A, would you feel differently about the story? And B, do you think he gets a full year? He will have bet on an NFL game, but he would not bet on the team that he has a contract with.
Yeah, it wouldn't change my mind. I am convinced that these guys know too many people. They've worked with too many people. They can get information, whether it's from friends, on other teams, etc. I just think I'm with Ugly Bag of Water, who goes by Sean in the real world. I'm with Sean on this one. I think the NFL will maintain a very hardline approach to gambling. I did not know about the low number fantasy rules that they're allowed to play up to a couple $100. So I do know that the players have talked about they have their own fantasy teams and things of that nature. So I knew guys played fantasy. Didn't know that there was a rule on the books of what the number was. But I just don't think you can allow it. Does it go on? I'm sure it does, David. I'm sure it does. I'm not a fool.
How many players do you think are using, first off, a relative or a friend in which they give and say, hey, put 500 down on so-and-so, and then they've worked out a little side deal, but it's obviously not directly connected to them, and or they just have their brother or sister place the bets?
We found out that Calvin Ridley did this because the NFL instituted or had a watchdog that they hired to track this. I don't think it's nearly as many as others think. I think players actually get that they do it. I think the NFL has a list of every one of their relatives that if that name popped up on a list, they'd know.
Yeah, but with all due respect, if we were brothers, okay, and you were the player and I was your brother, you can't get suspended because I'm betting on it.
No, but if all of a sudden you're betting $50 a week on a game and all of a sudden you make a $6,000 bet on my team.
Oh, you mean that obscure tennis match that happens in Bolivia?
All the time.
Right.
I think they're going to find out. Vegas doesn't keep knocking down casinos to build smaller ones.
Hey, listen, greatest watchdog group in the world is Vegas. They're the ones that picks up the phone, call the leagues, and go, hey, just so you know, we had a really large bet placed on this MAC semifinal. You may want to look into this. Something might be going on. Miller and Moulton. We'll talk to Pat Kirwan about this. The combine, put it to bed, and the franchise tag. The deadline is 4:00 today. 3 players already tagged. How many more does he think will get the tag? Pat Kirwan next on Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, the Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with the Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the Chicken Bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Saves it on yours. Mine doesn't.
It's all in here.
It's already
It's
all in there.
saved.
Yeah.
It's saved. It was like when I came up that page, all the information was typed in. All I had to do was hit
Yep.
the button.
Hops.
So there you go.
Eh.
Might want to write down that website so you don't forget it.
Hops goes, if I insist on Napa filter at Jiffy Lube.
Yep. And once you type up TXT, it should just pop up there for you. Yep. Oh, Jiffy Lube would never have a Napa filter.
Just leave. Just walk out.
Well, it won't get that long, Sean. Sean, we're not going to have him add it to the bookmarks in a browser. David, just add it to the bookmarks in your browser.
Right, Sean.
Come on. I mean, that's not even fair, Sean. It's a little mean. Oh, here you go. Look up. Play 4 is coming.
Philly, yeah, you got to see play 4. This is 6. Got to admit, that's a pretty lame.
Oh, Tyrese Maxey. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But that was a guard too.
Yeah, he wasn't big.
Yeah.
Now, I will say the score was 81-37 when he threw that pass, but still.
Still in high school to do that.
Adam, none. Not a one. Because he threw those away right when he got them. You guys are not nice.
No. That's funny,
AOL.
Adam. I don't have any of that stuff. That's
So did you
funny,
see
though.
Hops Tech Time with David adding a
Yeah.
bookmark?
Nope. Sorry, can't do it.
AOL CD-ROM. Internet CD-ROMs. Oh my.
Chi-Town, I think the NFL can do whatever they want, to be honest.
Boom!
Look at them. They did everything right.
Okay, they're all posted. The ones from yesterday.
Good.
I'm gonna call Pat now. Pat Kirwan. What is Pat short for?
Patrick,
Oh my god, I'm sorry. I'm stupid.
we know.
I'm sorry. I didn't even think of that.
I question every day.
Yeah.
Every day I question.
Patrick?
What else could it be?
I don't know.
Patricia,
Patricia.
Well,
if he was,
I mean,
it's the old adage,
he's had a mustache and he's
if my aunt had-
cross-dressing for a long
if
time.
my aunt had,
Right.
she'd be my uncle.
Right. I
Right.
understand that. But
Oh,
she's
Patrick's in
not.
Miami.
Wow. I know, Chi-Town. That's what we're dealing with. It's the best. It's the best help we can find, too. Don't kid yourself.
Oh, wow. This up here.
I think
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Final hour in Tampa, St. Pete, Port Charlotte and Venice, Lake City and surrounding areas. Halfway home on the 239. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. Thanks so much for being with us. His name is Pat Kirwan. He co-hosts the show weekday afternoons on NFL radio called Moving the Chains. And his weekly appearances are brought to you by Pinchers, from Tampa to Key West and a dozen locations in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. Pat, how did the combine treat you?
Not bad, David. It kind of runs along smoothly. Everybody knows what they're doing. And when they lift the mask mandate and all the nonsense that went on with that, then we got a chance to be in front of the kids, a lot of them, and even in front of coaches, and it worked out quite well for us. So the NFL seems to be like 2 weeks ahead of the government when it comes to what we should do next. So good for them. And a lot of fast times. I had Paul Alexander on yesterday. We really just talked about offensive linemen. When you go to the combine, Paul, what do you want to see? What don't you care about? And it's always interesting to hear line coaches talk. They're not real hung up, obviously, on the 40-yard dash, but they love the 10-yard dash. They love the size of the hand. That's big stuff, and obviously a length of arm and wingspan. Those are the things they care about. And if they get those at the combine to go along with good tape, then they got the guy they want.
Pat, just before we move to players and any of that stuff, your take following the combine of, is this leaving Indianapolis? Is this going to change monumentally? Because there was just a lot of talk, some coaches not showing up, some of the different things. How convinced are you that the combine keeps on keeping on, and for how long?
I think they're on a year-to-year basis. I don't think that any other city really understands. And I said this on the air the other day, Mark. Like, the combine's not like hosting the draft. You need a medical component to this that a lot of places just don't really have the connect. They think they do. But I would say this, and this is what I said to an NFL executive while I was there. I said, look, you need to stay in Indy for a year and then get it down to the two finalists that you think is where you want to go, LA and Dallas, I suppose. Make them come next year with a team of doctors that are going to guarantee entry to these hospitals for all this other testing, which you and I have talked about before. So I think that's the part they think they know, but once those doctors maybe hang with these players as they're going in and see that everyone in the hospital basically stops and lets the guy through, and they do their business, they get him back over there. And you can't predict how many are going to have to do that. I think if they say at the end of their visit, well, we can do all of that, and I can guarantee it at a hospital right next to where we're working out, and Jerry Jones, I'm sure well, I can do that. Well, I've come to find out you better deal with the medical guys on that part of it. And so that's why I think they should go to Indy one more year.
How about just the usefulness of the combine? Some of the agents and players and even coaches have said, that some of these drills, not quite sure if they have the usefulness that they had. The problem, Pat, that I see, like for the quarterbacks, there's no defenders of any kind. There's no even cardboard cutouts of any kind. I mean, there's nothing to provide any sort of resistance. I don't know how useful it is to see them throw in shorts indoors, if you know what I mean. So, but if you make it challenging, there's no chance that they will do any sort of workout. So I'm just wondering if the combine and the actual usefulness of it, besides the medicals, are the drills still relevant?
I never thought they were relevant. If you know the history of it, which I do, they had all this time to kill when they brought them out there for just medicals. That's how that literally happened. So there was hours to kill between things that were getting done, and all of a sudden a coach or two took a couple of guys into a room and started doing drills with them, and then they ended up taking them out on the floor. And then more coaches wanted to do that. And then all of a sudden they thought they were getting something out of that. So that's how it started. And a lot of times I think we've Now you got TV involved, David, which is really bad because they want to see all that junk. You know, it's a terrible event to go to, and I paid very close attention. I'll tell you a couple of funny stories, but people that get so excited, they're going to the combine, and when they get there, I used to grab them on the way out. I said, "Hey, remember me? I talked to you going in? Yeah. What'd you think coming out?" He goes, "Hey, you were right. Pretty boring in there." You're not allowed to cheer and yell. You're not allowed to do anything. And I think people don't even understand, or they have your perception, which is the same as mine. What good is that drill? You know, when a guy who's never been to the combine once and is maybe a 30-year-old fan, and he looks around and goes, "Man, I don't learn nothing about this quarterback. That maybe there's something to it." So they won't stop it now because of television. There were a couple things that come out of it, like Malik Willis had. He threw the ball great against nobody, on air, all that stuff. That's why this and the pro day mean nothing to me. I don't even like going to them, but I'll go because I want to talk to players, and I like to talk to players at this event. Pretty tough. I like to tell them a lot of things of what I think of them, or I make them go right to a game. I said, "Look, I watched 3 games of you. This is a bad game for you. Just tell me why." You know, and sometimes you learn really good reasons why. I'll never forget a guy who was drafted by the Giants, big Robin. Remember Freddie Robbins? You should. You're a Giants fan.
Big D lineman.
Okay. Yeah, big D lineman. So I'm interviewing Freddie. And I said, "Hey, Freddie, you're at Wake Forest, and you didn't do one thing that I liked in the West Point Army game." He goes, "Oh, yeah, you want to talk about that game? They were a wishbone team." And first off, he had total recall. Secondly, he goes, "Yeah, you know what I was? I was the boundary side defensive tackle. They told me never go anywhere. You got to be there for the counter dive. You're playing the counter dive. Don't play anything else. Don't chase anything because that's when they run the counter dive. So sit there and hang in the B gap for the whole game." Now, if I didn't see him and talk to him, I would think he was a lazy player. But I'll never forget Freddie saying that to me. And that was the day I learned a lesson. Probe the bad games and find out why.
Yeah, I think if I went to the combine, if I had a radio booth next to yours, or if I could just sit and listen to the interviews, because, Pat, I'm with you, not just the interviews, but I'm guessing it's not the specific stuff. Like this Malik Willis case is so fascinating to me. Here's a guy who may have won the combine by opening up a suitcase and handing out stuff from his swag bag to a homeless guy in the corner that just happened to get caught by a guy who was covering the camp. I mean, those are the little things. I would imagine, too, when you're talking about football, you probably end up finding a lot out about the guy in the minutia of the conversation in and around football, right?
Absolutely. That's why I think, and I hope things get resolved, but I think that's why Thibodeau's dropped a little bit. Now, when you drop in the first round from 1 to 5, that's a bigger drop than dropping from the 4th round to the 7th round when it comes to dollars. But his presentation to me was, I would say, self-centered. Now, it doesn't mean he can't play, and it doesn't mean he's not going to have 15 sacks. But when he walked away from me, I'm thinking, I don't know if every coach in the NFL wants to coach this dude. So the interview reveals a lot of things, and a lot of times good things. Willis, when I left there, the personality of Malik, I talked to him at the Senior Bowl. It was okay. But when I talked to Russell Wilson at the Senior Bowl, I thought he was terrible. And then I got him at the combine, and I saw a different guy. Same exact thing happened to Malik Willis and me. When he left me at the combine, I turned to Jimmy and go, "Man, that's this reincarnation of Russell Wilson." I'm talking about from the neck up. That guy has got it all. And his mentality, and he was extremely critical of himself. He said, "Guys don't transfer to Liberty because they're great. Why'd you go to Liberty?" He goes, "Because I was really immature." He goes, "I was babying myself at Auburn. I wasn't playing, so I stopped working. I stopped watching film. I stopped caring." And he goes, I think it was his dad rescued him from himself, basically calling him out. And he goes, "That's when I had to grow up." And he couldn't even, he had to sit for a year. And he goes, it was really eye-opening to see what I didn't know. And I'm thinking I'm going to go to Liberty and show everybody. When I get there, I realize those quarterbacks knew more than me. So it was fun to hear him tell his life journey. Those things come out in the combine. To me, there's value with that.
Pat, quickly, because I want to take a break. Willis, to me, is so hard to evaluate because of what you talked about. Also, his junior year tape, he's a lot like Jordan Love. Jordan Love's junior year tape was really good. His senior year tape was really bad. I think the same thing's true with Malik Willis. And not only that, he didn't play in a pro offense. Pickett and others did. I mean, I think Willis could be a star and he could be a bust. And I have no idea how you evaluate him.
Well, I think you got to study history to arrive at your final answer. And so, as you said, the advantage of the guys in a pro offense, well, that wasn't the case for Patrick Mahomes. He wasn't in a pro offense. He's done pretty well for himself. But Andy Reid was smart enough to take a year to do two things: get him ready for pro football and take a lot of what he did in college and integrate it into the Kansas City Chiefs offense. So if you're not willing to do that, if you need a pro quarterback, don't touch Malik Willis. If you're willing to blend his strengths with things you're willing to do different. I mean, Andy Reid was a full-blown West Coast guy, and you'd never know it watching them right now. So you have to have an appetite for him. If you want a guy that looks to me like he has arm skills, real arm talent, deep ball talent, and if you want a guy that's got high character, because maybe you've had a real turd in there lately, then you like this guy. If you need a pro guy and you don't care about hand size, you're going to take Pickett. But the real truth is, I wouldn't want to take any of these quarterbacks in the top half of the first round.
He's Pat Kirwan. Weekday afternoons on NFL Radio, he co-hosts Moving the Chains. His appearances on Miller and Moulton are brought to you by Pinchers, from Tampa to Key West and many points in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. More with Pat after this on the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, Pat, sorry about your friend.
What?
I said our condolences about your friend.
Hold on. I can only hear the commercial, David.
I think it went off now. That better?
Yep. Yeah.
I just said our condolences about your friend.
Oh, God. She was hurting, but I didn't think she'd go this fast. It was amazing. A year ago, she was just doing fine. Now, she was a heavy smoker, so that wasn't a good thing. But then she started getting the early stage. And I just got done burying Greg Robinson, and I saw what late-stage dementia was. But the early stages, then she got pneumonia on top of it, and I think she went, this is scary. She was 140 pounds when she was healthy, and she died 9 months later at 82 pounds.
Wow.
She shriveled right up. Her husband is a very close friend of mine, and she and my wife went to grammar school, high school together, and all that stuff. But we traveled with them, went to Ireland with them, golf trips with them, Saratoga with them, all that stuff. So it was bad.
That's terrible.
And my buddy, her husband, is not a mentally strong guy. He'll be lost in space with this. He kind of did everything for him.
Does he have family around him, like kids and what have you?
His son is in California. They're in New Jersey. He's got one daughter near him. And she's got 3 little kids, so it's not like, and he's already said, I can't ask, Kelly to help me with everything. So he got a little place in Florida. He said he was going to go back down there in about 2 weeks and then stay till May and figure out his life or something. He's on the other coast, but I'll get him over with me some. But it was really scary how fast that she fell apart.
Oh, that sucks.
Yes, it does.
It does suck, but I said that, and he smokes too. The two of them, he was a pack and a half a day still, and she was a pack of cigarettes a day for 25, 30 years. I don't know what they were thinking.
That's a lot of money too. Smokes are not
You
cheap.
know what? They are not. Well, they're okay. They got a little pensions, little Social Security. They took Social Security right away because they had to. So they really didn't have a lot. I worry about that part of it too. Yeah. Anyway, it was another weirdest thing, David. Quickly. So I said, okay, I got to get back for the funeral. So I'm in Indianapolis. I can't get off the show till 6. The last plane to Newark from Indianapolis on that day was 5:30. So I couldn't make the plane. Then I said, I'll just stay over and I'll take the early morning flight. The morning flight didn't get into Jersey to Newark till 11. The funeral was at 10. So I flew to Florida because I knew I could get on the 6 a.m. flight out of Fort Myers to Newark and be in Newark at 8:30. And then I made it easy, and then I hung around Eddie all day Sunday, and also it was kind of a strange. Go to Florida to go to Jersey.
Well, one thing that's for sure this time of year, there are lots of flights to Newark out of Florida.
Yeah, there are. The bus stop. It's not even I don't feel it's a plane. It's kind of like the bus. 1 an hour.
That's it. Pat, nothing weirder. My daughter had a softball game Sunday downtown Naples. What's even weirder than being around here and, when you're playing West Bay and seeing the planes go over your head is being at Cambria Park and watching one private jet after another every 8 minutes. Boom, 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 boom.
No, I know. Sometimes when I used to live down that way, I'd go down into Naples a lot. Or my kids would like to go to Tin City and all that nonsense. When you're there, it's just one after another.
One after another.
Yeah, you know what I said? Those are the Russian oligarchs trying to get out of London.
All right, we're coming back. Here we go.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
Approaching 20 minutes past the hour. Thanks for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com, at FL Sports Network on Twitter. We have a poll question today. Calvin Ridley suspension, too harsh, too soft, just right. Go to floridasportsnetwork.com, FL Sports Network on Twitter, that Mark Miller, the David Moulton on Twitter, and vote accordingly. Pat Kirwan, kind enough to stay with us here. Afternoons, NFL Radio, moving the chains, brought to you in part by Pinchers.
Pat, just how much is the NFL freaking out over the Calvin Ridley thing? I mean, this is the worst nightmare. Everybody's pointing out the domestic violence suspensions and all of the other things that are going on, and he's getting a year. I can easily separate them. First off, can you? And secondly, just how much do you think the league is freaking out over one of their players betting on games?
They knew it was going to happen. I mean, it's legalized now. It's everywhere. You can bet on your phone, which is what he was doing. It's first off, I would have suspended him for life.
Really?
Oh yeah. I don't really care about him. I care about the rest of the league looking at this. When he sent out that little tweet, 1 year, LOL, I would have changed it to life. Now, I would have been able to adjust that in 4 or 5 years when he's 30 and he can go get one more paycheck somewhere, but I would have dropped the hammer on him. Because Mark just said it. Oh, they're freaking out? Well, apparently they're not freaking out. They gave him a 1 year suspension. Yeah, he's going to lose $11 million, but it's not about him. It's about what are the other 1,800 players thinking. Look, we've told the players 100,000 times, no performance-enhancing drugs. Yet they catch guys every year. Why? Because it's worth the risk. Excuse me. So now all this tells players is this. When I want to bet, I'm going to turn to my friend Mark Miller or David Moulton and say, here's my 1,500. Make a bet for me. If you really want to scare the living daylights out of them, they were bragging this morning. Well, we're going to be gambling associated. They're going to help us. They're going to tell us when they're not going to tell you when someone's friend's doing it. So gambling is going to become more prevalent. You know, I can tell you, back when David and I were in college in the dinosaur era,
Oh, stop.
no one was betting on games in college dorms. They might have been betting with their friends down the hall. But this is very, very common for all these guys to be betting on stuff because betting is legal. It's all over the place. Everyone's family. So I think if you really want to scare them, which they don't think they really do, you'd suspend them for life because it's a big deal. But, you know, I had a call yesterday, and he's a very close caller of mine. David, I think you've met him before, Rocket. And the reason we call him Rocket, he used to own the Houston Rockets, and he calls me all the time. And he likes to blend his knowledge of the world of basketball with football. Now, he brought this up. This was his take. I don't know why you're not allowed to bet on your own team if you're going to bet on them to win. Why is that illegal? I said, well, Ross, think of it this way. You bet on your team to win, no problem there. And then you bet on your team to win next week, and then you do it the third week, and now everyone knows you're doing it. And then the fourth week, you don't bet on them to win. What's that tell the rest of the gamblers?
That was the Pete Rose situation. Those in the know, Pete would bet on the Reds almost every time, but he lost faith in Danny Jackson, one of his starting pitchers, and he wouldn't bet when Danny Jackson pitched. And so those in the know would bet against the Reds on those days. Interesting question, Pat, in our Twitch chat room. Hops wants to know, will Ridley's salary count against the cap? When you're suspended, does it count?
No, it will not count. Now, there was going to be, I guarantee, some level of arbitration here. There's going to be an appeal. He may have already had an appeal, but you got to remember the ingredients in this equation. He's going to claim he was under mental duress. He was not part of the team when he did it. He was open and honest about it. He bet with his own name on his phone. He didn't think anything was wrong. They're going to try to get a reduced thing. But right now, his salary will not count.
So if it's reduced, will it? Like, let's just say it's reduced to 10 games.
Oh, then as soon as he's back, that'll be the cap number. But again, I said life. I'm not buying any of the reduction reasons.
All right. Would you have been willing lifetime suspension, which technically is what Pete Rose got, but he could appeal after a year? That was the punishment that was handed down to Pete. Would I have been able to convince you if you're going to go lifetime, but he could start appealing after a year?
Yeah, well, I think the language, honestly, the way Roger presented the punishment, it's a 1 year suspension with another review next February. Is that correct? So isn't that really like the same thing? No, I would have dropped a bigger hammer because we know others are doing it. We know others are going to continue to do it, and we got to at least attempt to scare them into not doing it. I would be, you know what? Call me in 2 years. We'll let you appeal. Look, I apparently have more concern than anybody else. Maybe I know more than I'm telling you.
All right, Pat. The other, the decision we're all waiting for is by the Green Bay quarterback. Is he going to tell us that he's going to be Green Bay's quarterback for this season anytime soon, in your estimation?
He doesn't have to. He never set a date. Yesterday, Jenny Miller kept saying to me, tomorrow he's going to tell us. I doubt it. If he's not ready, there's nothing in CBA that says he has to make an announcement on March 8th or something. So I don't know. I think he did semi-promise that he'd have a decision before free agency. So March 22nd. If he wants to help out here and take a contract extension, that only helps. But when the Packers say, well, we really can't move ahead until we resolve this, that's their problem. That's not his problem.
I thought he had said that he would, in fairness to Devontae, make his decision by the time it was to be tagged, which is 4:00 today. 3 players.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
3 players.
Tag him anyway.
Okay, 3 players got tagged yesterday. Pat, you may lose one of the very few times over the years you may lose a bet with me. I think you placed the tag number at around 5.5, 6, and 3 of them got tagged yesterday. Reportedly, Godwin and Schultz will get tagged today. You got to figure Devontae's going to get tagged. But your thoughts on who got tagged, and is there someone out there that you think really should be tagged?
I thought Gesicki might get tagged. $10 million for the tight ends. I'm not so sure I'd tag Godwin. That's for sure. It's a second tag for starters. That's the first problem. And the second problem is his health. I don't think I would tag him. He's a great player, but I would not be tagging him a second time. He may not even play half the year. So I wouldn't be tagging him. Maybe he's my hedge bet here, David, that they won't tag him.
Okay. I mean, some offensive linemen out there. I mean, I thought it was interesting. The Browns tagged Njoku. I mean, they got a $9.5 million tight end already. Now they got a $10.5 million one to go with them. I know they play 2 tight end offense a lot. $20 million for your tight ends. That ain't cheap.
It's not, and he dropped the ball too much for my liking. I like Kevin, so he wants, and he, you know what? If you think about the way Kevin's talked about Njoku since he got to Cleveland, because when he got there, everyone's going, Kevin will get rid of this guy. He drops a lot of passes. And he didn't. And he kept saying how much he liked him. So he proved it. I was surprised by that one. That one, when I saw that, and that one came in first. So I go, oh, good. I'm going to lose this bet to David. But I still got Godwin on my side. I'm more interested today, starting today, really, of digging into the cap casualties. If you ask a guy to take a reduction and he says no, you really got to cut him. DeMarcus Lawrence
and Amari Cooper, and both of them, and
he's gone.
Yeah,
that one's easy. He's a goner. And Amari, they didn't even offer him, to my knowledge, a reduction. You better take a good hard look at the amount of wide receivers in free agency, but most importantly, the receivers in the draft. You have 14 receivers that ran under 4.4. Some of them aren't any good, but some of them are real good. And you get a guy at the rookie wage. I think you're going to see a lot of guys passing on the opportunity to take veterans, unless the veteran wants to take a big pay cut.
A little surprised the Chargers don't tag Williams or tag somebody.
Me too.
They got a lot of cap space. I think you can't afford to lose those guys.
I appreciate that your insight is so accurate, but I also think you're saying that just so you win the bet.
No.
Not on that one.
No.
I think we're all in agreement, Pat. You wouldn't let Williams go, would you?
Nope. Not one bit. Now, the challenge when you have a great arm quarterback like Herbert is you have to start asking yourself somewhere, do I invest all this money in receivers, multiple guys getting paid, or do I count on the quarterback to take a young guy and raise him up? If you really look at the receivers in Green Bay after Adams, they're counting on the quarterback to make the rest of them good.
And he has done that for sure. He's Pat Kirwan, weekday afternoons, NFL radio, moving the chains. He joins us twice a week throughout the season, and that usually means through the draft. And he does so courtesy of pinchers from Tampa to Key West and many points in between pinchers because you can't fake fresh. Pat, safe travels. Be well. Hopefully we can talk Friday.
We will talk Friday. I make sure that I owe you one because I missed last week, but I started interviewing players and I told them I got to go do this show. And they looked at me like, just stay right there.
Pat Kirwan, kind enough to join us once again here on Miller and Moulton. Shelby Mast, who's in, who's out. You know, we should really have like game show music underneath Shelby at this time of the year, don't you?
Maybe I'll get our, because, you know, the whole copyright laws and music, people get ticked off,
Right.
Facebook and YouTube and Twitch and all those things. I've got a guy that makes music for us. I'll see if he can make a game show theme.
Welcome back. It's Shelby Mast with Who's In and Who's Out behind curtain number 1. That's the Big Ten. Shelby, what do you have?
That's next on Miller and Moulton. We'll do the whole show like a game show from this point forward and see how long you stay tuned in to the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Yeah, they're talking outside.
Anywhere else,
Catching up. Yeah, I'll let y'all eavesdrop if that's what y'all want.
Nonstop. You're the only one here. This is.
I went to go get a snack and my card. Oh, I tried the Apple Wallet thing. See, because Apple just gave me $10 for whatever reason with like the Apple Cash thing. Try to use it on the vending machine to get something and it doesn't work. I'm like, what the hell?
What was the score, by the way?
81-37 when
We've
he
seen
did
it
that.
the game scores 81.
I didn't see that
was
the score.
Look at the scoreboard. It's 81-37 when he does it.
Yeah,
He does it. Yeah, you would.
Of course they
If you
did.
were the opposing coach, you would have lost your mind. You would have been arrested.
You
You would have been arrested. Right.
I would have fist bumped my kid.
Osama bin Laden could play right field.
He could play left field for the Yankees as long as he hits 30 homers and drives in 100 runs. Right. That's the author of that comment. Yep. Shelby Mast here when you get a chance.
I got you.
Oh God. Sorry, Twitch folks.
I do
that
like
was...
your heat. Is that technically a pullover? What is that?
It's a quarter zip.
I like it.
Look, check it out.
It's cold in here. I don't blame you.
No. That is the controller, CFO of this building. I don't know what his actual
Business manager?
business manager, I guess. He's the business manager of this building. He's one of 3 people that like us in this building.
Yeah. Maybe.
And 3, 2.5's the over under. Raj
likes us. Shane likes us.
No, we got more than that. Rick Peterson likes us.
He does. He has not spoken to us though, because he's behind us and he goes right in.
He says hi to me when I see him.
Okay.
If I see him, he says hello.
Okay. That's 3. Think Jeff Edwards would count?
Yeah.
Is Pam still here?
Yeah. But she hasn't even come down to see us. How can you count Pam?
Well, I don't know if they come in sales wise.
He's on hold. We're coming back now.
A little bit of attitude there.
Gonna say.
Oh, sorry.
Takes a commercial break off where we don't talk to him. And he
Right.
gets
Sorry,
a
sorry.
little attitude.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"21 minutes before the hour, the home stretch of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Shelby Mast, kind enough to join us once again. Shelby, I hope we didn't wake you up. Bracketwag, bracketwag.com. Follow him on Twitter at bracketwag. If it is a Gannett newspaper, the biggest of which is USA Today, the bracketology that you see is courtesy of Shelby Mast. Shelby, how are you this morning?
A little sleepy, but I'll be all right.
It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse before it gets better, Shelby. I know we've got a lot of them tonight, and we start with some of the big boy conferences, so everything will start happening this afternoon. I want to start with the Gators, Shelby. You've got them on your next 4 out. I've seen some other people that do this in their first 4 out. You're a little more down on the Gators than a lot of other people in your line of work. Just explain to us why the Gators have so much work to do in your estimation.
They haven't done a whole lot this year. Their resume is okay. They've got a good win at Ohio State. There was a buzzer beater, and that won one a few weeks ago. Auburn, I think it was, and that's about it. They've lost games that they should win, but I can't do it. They don't have that punch in the resume.
How many wins you think in the SEC tournament to get over the top? Would it take 2 quality wins getting to the final? How far out are they to you right now?
Well, they can jump in for sure, but I think getting to the final will help. I don't know if that would be enough. It also depends on what other bubble teams around their area do.
Right.
Fall off or whatever. That root for or bubble teams to lose. That would help a lot too.
According to Shelby, as of this hour, the last four in are Wyoming, Xavier, Wake Forest, SMU. First four out are Dayton, VCU, BYU, and Indiana.
Which, and I don't know, when you look at the top end here, is there a one that's most vulnerable to fall off? Would that be Auburn? I mean, you've got Auburn, I think, as your number one overall. Who's the one that's most likely to fall off the one line, Shelby?
Auburn is my fourth number one, and that they would be most vulnerable. I think with the SEC tournament so tough, and they've been one or two most of the time past few weeks, I think they are most vulnerable. But there's only Kansas and Kentucky really that could pass them up.
The Wisconsin loss at home to Nebraska, did it cost them a line?
Not yet, it hasn't. It might. But the main reason why is look at their resume compared to the other teams that are there, and it's superior. And plus, during the game, Johnny Miller got hurt and didn't return, and that does factor in.
Hey, tonight we've got the West Coast Conference Final. If St. Mary's beats Gonzaga again, how high up could they go, and would it drop the Zags from a 1?
Zags are locked in, I think. They're not going to drop. St. Mary's possibly could go to a 4. I got them at a 5 right now, and I'm kind of shaky. There's 6 seeds that can pass them up. I think it would solidify them on the 5 line, but they could possibly move to the 4 line.
How many from the West Coast for you?
I think 3. I think BYU kind of shot themselves in the foot coming down the stretch. I know there's injury issues, but I don't see them making it in.
How many games does Dayton have to win to get in, Shelby?
That's tough to say. I think 2 at least. They've got a really nice, or really weird profile. They've got some fantastic wins, and they got some stinker losses, and they got to try to overcome those losses in a short amount of time. I think they can do it, but I think a run to the finals might get it done.
Mountain West, how many you got?
4. I'm kind of set on that. Wyoming's iffy right now, but the other 3 are solid.
They've been pretty shaky down the stretch here, the Cowboys.
Yeah, they have, and it's hurt their overall profile, where it's not as impressive as it was 3 weeks ago.
Indiana beats Michigan Thursday. Do they just have to win one more to get in, and would they be doing it at Michigan's expense?
I don't think that would drop Michigan out. Indiana probably has to win 3 games, maybe 2 gets it done, but I lean towards 3.
How many from the Pac-12? Is it just Arizona and the 2 SoCal schools?
Unless Oregon State gets hot again.
If Oregon gets to the conference, they have an interesting profile also. They have some great wins and some bad losses. If they get to the final, is that enough, or do they have to cut down the nets?
I think they've got to win it all.
Boy, the Pac-12 just getting no love, and it seems that this is an every year occurrence, Shelby. Is this something that when you start doing your bracketology, how much do teams, I mean, first off, when do you start formulating your first brackets?
After the tournament.
Okay, so when does, how much does November, December play? How much did that take out all these Pac-12 teams? Because there's some teams with decent records. Is it a total non-conference scheduling? Is it something that the SEC went through, a decade ago that they fixed?
Kind of, and having your non-conference, don't lose games you shouldn't lose. That's a big thing. Pac-12 does have some nice teams. If you listen to Bill Walton, they're going to get 6 in. But they're not competitive in some of those games. I'm hesitant to put more than 3.
The A-10, the Missouri Valley, some leagues that in the past have had multiple bids. Do you see any of those leagues getting more than one bid?
Missouri Valley, no. The A-10, possibly. If Davidson can get to the finals, I think if they lost in the finals, they'd still get in, and then whoever beats them would get in.
Can St. Bonaventure get in without winning the conference tournament?
Probably not. As much as I'd like to see it, I don't see it happening.
Was Loyola Chicago in if they would have lost?
They were right on the cut line. I think they might have been in, but they'd probably been in a playing game, and then they got to sit and wait and hope that nobody else passes them by.
I think the folks in Wake Forest are not happy with you. You've got them on the bubble. I think others have them in a little better shape. Is one enough for them in the ACC tournament? Do they just have to not get upset in the first round?
That'll probably do it. Their non-conference is such a weak. They're the ACC, one of the big boys, and they schedule that non-conference is pathetic. And teams have usually, in this situation, have been penalized for doing so.
Are the Hurricanes a lock right now, Shelby?
No, I don't think so. I think if they lost the first one, it's going to be a very shaky ground.
Do either of the Virginia schools have a chance to get a bid if they get to the ACC final?
Virginia Tech, maybe, but a lot would have to happen.
How many from the Big East?
Big East, I've got 7 right now.
Wow.
And Xavier is on shaky ground.
As they should be. They've also faltered down the stretch. All right. Shelby Mast. Bracket Wag is how you follow him on Twitter. Bracketwag.com is where you go every night. Usually it's between midnight and 1 a.m. Central is when he posts his updated daily bracket, who's in, who's out, and then he does the seedings, and he's got a true seed list, a ton of information. If this is your sport and this is your time of year, Shelby should be your guy. Shelby Mast, bracketwag.com, USA Today in print, and follow him on Twitter at bracketwag. Shelby, thanks so much. Continued success.
Thank you for having me.
Shelby Mast, kind enough to join us here on Miller and Moulton.
A lot of info there. I do think the big thing is Auburn's the only one that apparently can move off the line. Arizona, Baylor, Gonzaga are set. I mean, that's what he's telling us.
Here's what I find funny. At a lot of places, they have Kansas ahead of Kentucky on the 2 line. So that if Auburn were to move off the 1, a lot of others have Kansas moving up and being then the 4th 1 seed. Kentucky beat Kansas by 30.
Right. Shelby does not, for the record, as he ranks every team out. He has Auburn 4, Kentucky 5, Kansas 6.
And usually I don't care the difference between a 1 and a 2 and that sort of deal. I mean, if you're good enough, you'll win. But then again, this thing is all about matchups. I mean, we follow even the women's bracket closer than most. And there are times in which certain schools just get bids and you're like, oh man, if you had given them their proper seeding, that was a much better matchup for them than the one you gave them.
I'm just, when I look at this, the Big East was 7, next most to the Big 10. The Mountain West with 4. That's one more than the Pac-12. I mean, that is just some things that you see on this, to me, are a little unusual. But Miami, in his estimation, still has work to do. Don't lay an egg in the first round of the ACC tournament is basically what he's telling the Canes.
They're not on the bubble, but they could get there with a loss. SEC with more teams than the ACC. And for the longest time, I thought the ACC was only going to get 3.
And he has them with 5 right now. But remember, he has Wake Forest as the last team in. He has the Canes in a spot where they could get bumped. Right now, of the last teams in, if you will, Michigan is a pretty good spot in front of the Wyoming, Xavier, Wake Forest, SMUs.
So he's got Duke, Carolina, Notre Dame, Miami, and Wake. And he's got Wake barely in. I thought Wake was in. I got to be honest. That one surprised me when I saw his bubble and went, damn.
So it'll make the first round of the ACC, or the second round, if you will, of the ACC tournament interesting if some games get competitive there.
Technically, the ACC tournament gets underway today. Georgia Tech, Louisville, Boston College, Pitt, NC State, and Clemson.
What an embarrassment Pitt's become in basketball.
A great in-depth story about 3 to 4 weeks ago in The Athletic about what has happened to Pitt basketball and the demise, and they trace it back a good decade and decisions that were made, and basically not being impressed with Jamie Dixon, who got him to the tournament every year, won 20-plus games every year, did not have the tournament success. He had one run to the Elite Eight. But Pitt was a team that underachieved their seeding consistently in the tournament. They were supposed to get to the Sweet 16. They got knocked out in the second round, et cetera. And so, they started to let Jamie's contract run down. And Jamie looked at him and went, we going to extend this thing? And they went, yeah, I would really like you to do more in March. And Jamie went, really, huh? Okay. Did you know it's not so easy to do what we're doing, right? And so he went to TCU. And while he has not done great gangbusters at TCU, they're happy with him.
And they've done better than Pitt's done without him, and it's not close.
No, it is not. And obviously they got into the whole, Pitt, along with Syracuse, along with Boston College, former Big East schools that are now out of their element. Maryland's going through this right now. Maryland's a great job. If Maryland's in the ACC, it's a great job.
Maryland in the Big Ten might be an average job.
They'll pay really well. Their fans, by the way, are top 10 nuts. Top 10 nuts.
And you don't mean that in a good way.
No. The expectations at Maryland.
Well,
I
don't think
high.
They should be high.
No, but they're like minimum Sweet 16 every year high.
I got you, but it's also one of the hotbeds of high school basketball. The talent in and around the D.C. area is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's tough to find the Big Ten network on in the Washington, D.C. area. That's how fish out of water they are right now in that conference.
I got you, but they should, put it this way. Who should be able to figure it out first? Pitt in the ACC or Maryland in the Big Ten?
Maryland in the Big Ten.
And it's not close.
All right, greater mystery. Maryland in the Big Ten, Georgia. How in the world can Georgia, with all that basketball talent in the greater Atlanta area, not be a consistent 20-win tournament team?
How can the University of Georgia care more about their women's gymnastics program than they do their men's basketball program?
Well, they're really good and they win.
I got you, but there's a lot of other ones in the SEC that do as well. David, I'm going to go Maryland close over Georgia because of how much Maryland cares.
Be interesting to see how much Georgia cares here. I think they're going to not hire a big name, big money coach this time.
Which of those teams has the best coaching?
None.
Well, right now, Crean's about to get fired in less than a week, and Maryland forced Turgeon out, and he made the tournament every other year on average. So right now, they're both in transition. When it's done, when this coaching cycle's done, the answer will be Maryland.
Smith subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith subs. Find a John Smith subs location near you today.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial.
and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
I mean, yes. Mark. First, I mean, in all honesty, who should be better in Bath, Florida or Georgia? Should be Georgia.
Georgia.
Yeah, you're right, Mr. Boutte there. I mean, Georgia, Washington, it's finally happening. And I know I'm from Jersey, but I've been saying for a long time. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns is from Jersey. I could go down the list of great players who play their high school ball in Jersey.
Kyrie Irving?
Yeah. I think.
So, by the way, the guy I was telling you about, Drew Diener. You know that name, David?
I do not.
That's the Louisville radio host.
Gotcha. Yeah. Jay Williams, by the way, was from Jersey.
Yeah, I think I knew that. Other than Anthony Edwards, who has Georgia produced?
Well,
recently?
A long time ago, it was Dominique, but really in 40 years, not a ton.
Because Anthony Edwards really was just a standout. Holy crap. I should have waited for the commercial break to ask that question and let you do your outro. My bad.
That's right. I mean, hey, what Andy's doing at USC, I mean, come on. There are a lot of people who are like, why can't USC be decent at basketball? They're in SoCal, for God's sakes.
And they are now decent.
Right.
They're actually pretty good.
Yeah.
He's actually done if you think about it, he had a couple of rough years there, but the last 3 years, he's done really well.
Well, last 7.
Maybe. Well, you got screwed the 1 year, right?
They won 24 games, didn't make the tournament because of the whole FBI investigation there, and one of his assistants got named. And then they were going to make the tournament when the tournament got canceled.
Who's Mark Zinno with?
Well, he's with Veasan.
Fine. That's all I need. That's good.
Sports Grid.
That's Veasan's fine. I got it. I just needed something to put next to his name.
There you go. Oh, damn.
What?
I was supposed to text him and remind him.
They're usually pretty good about it. He saw that. He
call him.
Yeah, and apologize that I didn't send him a reminder text.
He saw the retweet.
Okay.
He retweeted it. That's the only reason
Right. The Hurley brothers were both Jersey boys. No, there's a lot of people sandwiched in between Philly and New York City. Enfield got his master's at Maryland. I think he would. And by the way, little nugget, number 2 person in the athletic department at Maryland was at FGCU when Andy was here. That was a little nugget for you. And I will give you, after this segment, for those of you that wanted a name for the FGCU job, I will give you the name in our next Twitch break.
Why in the Twitch break?
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It is the bonus hour of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com, FL Sports Network on Twitter. Thanks so much for being with us. Mark Zinno is kind enough to join us once again. VSiN, Pickwise, Sports Grid Television, lives in Atlanta, has covered the Falcons for a generation. You can follow Mark on Twitter at Mark Zinno, Zinno. Mark, it's David and Mark once again. How are you?
Gentlemen, good morning. Always good to be with you.
All right. This story for you literally cross-sects your entire professional career here in the last generation, from where it is that you reside, the team that you covered intimately. Now you've, gone over, you combine sports and gambling with what it is you do. Your thoughts on the Ridley suspension?
Well, look, he needed to be punished. If he gambled on the NFL, it's clearly prohibited. It's been prohibited for a long time. This is not new. You can walk around any NFL facility and see signs in every single area, the weight room, the locker room, on the way to the cafeteria. There are signs all over NFL facilities telling you that you cannot gamble on NFL games. So, this is not something that there really is any way around for Calvin Ridley. Now, he missed pretty much 70% of last season with what he described and what the team described as mental health issues. And a lot of people, myself included, were quick to kind of ask the simple question, was the mental health thing a cover-up, and was the guy just gambling like a maniac on the side? Well, as we find out from the NFL, it's not really the case. But, I really only feel like one of two scenarios exists here, guys. Either the gambling was part of his mental health problems and needs to be addressed by professionals, or gambling is not part of his mental health issues, and he made a conscious, stupid decision for which he clearly should be punished for. I'm not sure there's really room for a third scenario. Now, again, full disclosure, I don't have all the information about what the mental health portion of things mean, but if his mental health issues led him to gambling, that could be a problem that seriously needs to be addressed, right? So, clearly, again, he didn't realize the simple wager of $1,500 for a parlay is now being turned into an $11 million loss of my entire salary for next year. So clearly he doesn't understand what he put on the line in reality. And again, that's something that may need to be addressed. I think the other thing that comes out of this, which is really frustrating, is for, my industry, the sports gambling industry, now to continually have to be undermined and undercut as something that has value or something that belongs in professional sports, because you have really what you can count on one hand in the last 20 years of lone wolf idiots who do bad things, right? That's what it boils down to. The rest of the gambling industry is regulated, it's monitored, it's tracked, it's all on the up and up. There's nothing, there's no integrity issues with any of it. But yet these issues people love to run and start saying, well, gambling is a legit problem, gambling this and gambling that, and we can't have it in the sports. And that's just not true. And there really is no conflict of interest between the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, the NHL, taking money from gambling companies as advertisers and then telling their players that they can't gamble. This really isn't a difficult process to understand. They take money from beer companies, and you can't drink and drive. They take money from CBD companies and CBD oil, whatever it is, and some of these leagues don't allow you to use any of that stuff. So I'm not really sure what the issue is. People are trying to do all sorts of things to conflate this stuff together. It's increasingly frustrating for the gambling space. And, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't want to tell people to stay in their lane, so to speak, but if you don't spend a lot of time in the gambling space and this isn't your wheelhouse, you probably need to let the professionals talk about it.
Well, and Mark, one of the things that you kind of made me think about in your answer is that the league is the one that found this out. I don't think we're spending enough time looking at the watchdog groups that the league has already put in place because here's one guy betting $1,500, which is not that much money when you make what an NFL player makes. And yet they were able to find out that he bet that. I do think, as you pointed out, Vegas is the biggest watchdog there is to gambling. They're the ones that let the leagues know. I do think a little bit of time should be spent saying, hey, congratulations, NFL. You had one of your players bet, and you found out right away and punished him.
100%. And that's the thing that's not really being talked about enough, is that this was found out because it's easy to track this stuff, right? Like, it's not a situation where they don't keep books, they don't keep records, they keep all these things. Like all this stuff is 100%, able to be found and tracked. And so from that standpoint, you have to give the league and the NFL credit simply because the system worked the way it was supposed to.
Mark Zinno of VSiN. Follow him on Twitter at Mark Zinno, ZINNO. I don't think there's any repercussions going forward outside of 2-3 days of maybe misconceptions and a few people going, oh, you see, this is why gambling is bad. But, I mean, Mark, let's face it. The NFL decided to cannonball into the deep end of this industry within the last 3 to 5 years. There's no way to drain the pool now, is there?
No, you're not putting the toothpaste back in the tube. You're not putting the genie back in the bottle. All those things are just simply not happening at this point in time. And especially given the amount of money that these gambling companies have and how much they can then, really spend and provide a stream of income for sports leagues. And guys, even in our industry and radio, how much money and influx are these companies providing to keep jobs like yours and mine afloat? So,
I don't know. The governor of our state, unfortunately, made a bad deal with the Seminole tribe, so we don't. It's killing us here, man. It's killing us.
I know. I'm on what happened in Florida and Governor DeSantis and the Seminole tribe and everything else. But again, it's you've seen that sort of, and I don't want to get too much inside gambling talk, but that's happened in a couple of states where they try to limit the number of sports books that can get in there. And it seems very like inside government, underhanded, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of deal. And politics certainly gets involved in that. And you get through a whole lot of bureaucracy that doesn't need to be there. But again, kind of completely different discussion. That said, again, nobody is going to walk away from this money, and they don't have to. Like, they really, really don't have to. It's you can separate the bad actors from the system, right? I mean, we do. It happens all the time. There are people in politics who do bad things. Oh, look at the governor of New York. Guess what happened? Yep, time to go bye-bye. Does that mean everybody? Well, I mean, government might be a bad example because most people are sleazy, but you get the point. It's one of those things where it's like you don't throw out the entire government system because you got a couple of people who can't keep their hands to themselves. Like, it's just that's not the way we do things. You don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, to use an old phrase. But again, a lot of the people with all the takes on this stuff don't spend a great amount of time in the gambling space, and they are not people who really have experience with it. I saw one national host for Fox, I'm not going to say his name, but decided to turn around and say, well, I think players should be able to gamble on the NFL as long as they're betting on their own team, because what are you going to do, not try harder? Like, that's just completely asinine. Like, you cannot have a conflict of interest on the football field. It's one thing when it's a personal contract incentive that is predetermined before the season starts. The Falcons-Jaguars game line probably isn't determined before the season starts. And even if it is, you have no idea if you're going to play in that game all the way down the road, right? Those contract incentive things boil down to one game at the end of the year and a specific situation. That is not the same as a player wagering outside money on a game, even if they are betting on themselves. It just causes you to react differently. It absolutely would. It's that whole little league principle. Like, if you're the coach, you kind of treat your kid different than everybody else's, whether it's better different or worse different. Your kid is different because you have a personal vested interest in the outcome of what your child does. So it's the same sort of thing, and it clouds your judgment. And there's again, a whole bunch of really weird hot takes going on about this whole thing that are from people who don't really have the experience in the industry.
And it's like, I've tried to set it. At the end of the day, we're under FCC guidance. We can have beer ads. I can sit there and tell you to go drink beer at a bar, but I can't sit here and knock down 10 Miller Lights while I'm doing my show. It's against the law. I don't know why people can't figure this out. But Mark, our poll question, I'm going to ask you, the suspension, too short, too long, just right?
No, it's just right. It's just right. You can't This isn't something you want to nip this in the bud immediately. You don't want a rash of guys to even think that it's something that they can dip their toe into. Nobody wants to give up a year's salary, especially if you're a high level player, right? If you're a fringe player, they're going to cut your backside anyway and send you packing. So it's the right message to send. I think it's appropriate. The amount of money you gamble is completely irrelevant. It's only relevant to your personal bankroll. The idea that you made a wager on something that you knew was wrong. I mean, again, this is something that is clear as day. You knew it was wrong. They told you 100 times it was wrong. They told you 100 times it was against the rules, and you did it anyway. Like, I have no tolerance, and I have no empathy or sympathy for people who are explain the rules completely and succinctly and choose to do the exact opposite of what the rules say. There's not much room for it. I think the punishment absolutely fits the crime. I think there's no reason to even think about going soft on this. And the NFL, because there is this perception from the public there's a conflict of interest because you're taking money from the gambling companies, they absolutely can't even allow any of that to get muddied. You want to place a simple $5 bet on a game, I don't care if it's a parlay, a straight wager, whatever it is, knock yourself out. You're going to be done for a year. I think that's perfectly the right message to send.
Nearly 60 years ago, a couple of Hall of Famers were suspended for a year for gambling. Paul Hornung, Alex Karras. They were welcomed back to their respective teams the next year. You think there's any?
I don't think Calvin Ridley should never be able to play again. I don't think anybody should turn away from Calvin Ridley as a wide receiver because he gambled. I mean, look at the NFL. They take women beaters back. They take drunk drivers back. They take people in jail back. Like you're going to look at gambling as the guy you don't bring back to the league? I mean, for crying out loud. Like, Deshaun Watson's going to play again, and he's touched more people than God himself. Like, it's ridiculous. So absolutely Calvin Ridley should be back in the league again.
Hello, I think these are working this morning.
Mark Zinno with quite the last word. Sports Grid Television, host on Pickwise, and you can also listen to him on VSiN. You can follow Mark on Twitter at Mark Zinno, Zinno. Mark, as always, thanks for your time. Continued success.
David, Mark, thank you, gentlemen. Have a great day.
Mark Zinno.
That's a solid line right there.
Wow.
Touched more people than God himself. David?
All righty then.
Things are going well for you this morning.
In what way, Mark?
Oh, we have some breaking news from Miami. Mike Gesicki has been franchise tagged.
There we go. Now we're talking. Get that number up there. I'd love to win this bet with double digits, too.
You're going to win it going away. What was the number?
Well, I think it was
5.5, I thought.
Yeah, I think he threw out 6. So we'll give him 6. And I need to get to 7 to win the bet. I will say, while we were talking to Mark, there was a report that the Bucs and Chris Godwin think they can make a deal before 4 o'clock and that the Tampa Bay will not have to franchise tag him. Be interesting then if they slap the tag on somebody else. But so the Bucs apparently working hard to sign Godwin to a long-term deal so that they don't have to tag him. They will tag him if no deal by 4 o'clock. Cowboys also reportedly will tag tight end Dalton Schultz and pay him $10.5 million a year.
Tight ends getting paid.
Yes, they are. David Njoku, Mike Gesicki, and maybe Dalton Schultz. 2 of the 3 already tagged, and that's officially 4 tags, right? Where Gesicki makes 4?
Gesicki makes 4.
The 3 from yesterday. 4 o'clock today is the deadline. Miller and Moulton. 14 minutes after the hour, the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. And use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf,
where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
David, I think I just discovered the root of our problems. Oh, he doesn't have his headset on.
Did you give your nugget out?
No. I think there's a chance that the next FGCU men's basketball coach is Chris Mack. He was at a game a month ago, the former Louisville coach. His daughter's apparently going to FGCU in the fall. So I think there's a chance. And that would be quite something. I mean, you know, he was making what, $4 a year at Louisville to come work for what it is he'd work for here. But
$250 to start. I mean,
well, my guess is he would be able to get more than that. He would lean on Ken, and Ken would then say, well, you know, hopefully we'll make it up in ticket sales, that sort of deal.
it's really funny, but I mean, I'll ask you, does Chris Mack sell 20 season tickets?
Well, once again, if we marketed it, he would. All right.
Now, I mean, because Louisville has a big following down here.
Right.
Big.
Now, remember, it didn't end well with him at Louisville, and they don't necessarily think all that highly of him, but before that, wasn't he at Cincinnati? Xavier. He was at Xavier.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
The only affiliate that has a bonus hour is Fort Myers, or the only area,
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Fort Myers.
Right.
Right.
So I think I might have concluded the root of our problems. I'm sending relays in the bonus hour.
What would that have to do with the next day?
I don't know. Like,
If there's no problems Monday through Thursday and there are on Friday, I don't think it's the relay.
that's a good
And
one.
besides, we're only you're talking literally. My guess is we have 3 more days of this.
Yeah. Oh,
I
right,
think
'cause
we'll be
we're-
on hard breaks by Monday.
Right.
And for me, I only have 1 more day of it.
Yeah. Less than a minute. 45 seconds.
Today feels like a Thursday.
Already?
Yeah, I'm off Thursday and Friday.
You're dancing?
Oh,
Come on.
it's the best week of the year. There's nothing I like more than the member guest tournament at our club. It's my favorite week of the year.
Little spring break.
I didn't drink this much on spring break. I got Wayne Doyle handing me bloodies every morning. There's free beer all over the golf course.
That is incredible.
You're darn right I am, Logic Man. It's my favorite. It's why I joined this golf course. would crush me to not play in this tournament.
All right, we're coming back.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. Thanks so much for being with us. Good, bad, and ugly. What's on tap? Today was the day when. Some final thoughts. All coming up in just a bit. Mike Gesicki got the franchise tag within the last 15 minutes. $10.9 million a year, I believe it is, for Gesicki, a tight end. Another tight end, David Njoku, got the tag yesterday from the Browns. And maybe Dallas is going to tag Dalton Schultz coming up later today. 4 o'clock. That's when teams have to have made their mind up by 4 o'clock. And if you're just joining us, the Bucs reportedly trying to work out a long-term deal with Chris Godwin so that they don't have to tag him. Trying to figure out if there's someone they would tag if they're able to sign Godwin, and is there someone they're in danger of losing. How about their center? You sign Godwin, do you tag Ryan Jensen? Just lost Marpet. Just throwing that out there. The other guard is position is open as well. I think both guys there. I'm just throwing it out there. That's why this could be important. If they can get this deal done in the next 6 hours, there might be someone else they want to keep.
And there are a plethora of free agents on that team, so there's no doubt that they may want to use it on someone else.
It was at this time yesterday that we discussed Michael Fly being fired over the weekend as FGCU men's basketball coach. We had a few people, whether it be text or Twitch, say, hey, any thoughts about who's going to replace him? And I'm of the belief it's going to be a name of some kind. And I'm not talking Rick Pitino, a huge name, but it will be someone that the basketball community down here will go, oh, wow. It'll be someone that makes Sports Center.
Will that person have the same last name as me?
No.
Okay.
But close. I do think someone to just keep, think in terms of someone who lost their job in the last year or so and is looking for an entry point to get back into coaching. Because there's two ways you can go here. Most coaches want to get back in, and they want to get back in quickly. They're coaches. It's who they are. They need to coach. Now, some of them scratch the itch with family, with broadcasting. They're owed money. They just let the checks come in. And others are like, yeah, I've been home now for however many days. I got to go to work. Does an Archie Miller get hired? But the guy that I'm just going to throw out there, that I think that there's a snowball's chance that he might do it, despite the fact that this is far below his resume, is recently former Louisville coach Chris Mack. He was at a game about a month ago in the stands. Apparently, one of his kids is chose FGCU as the place where they want to go to school. So he can trade
part of his salary for his kid's tuition, especially if it's out of state. Now we're talking. I like a good trade.
And you just wonder, would that in any way, notice I'm ignoring you.
I'm glad you are. I really and truly am glad you are.
And so you just wonder if something like that, unique circumstances, it ends very badly at Louisville. All right. He is a coach that is obviously of much higher caliber than where FGCU is in the ASUN. I mean, he took Xavier and Louisville to multiple NCAA tournaments. I mean, he had a stretch there between Xavier and Louisville in which he made the tournament 9 times in 10 years. took Xavier to an Elite Eight, and I believe 3 Sweet 16s. Would have made the tournament 10 times in 11 years if the 2020 tournament wasn't canceled because of the pandemic, because that Louisville team won 24 games. And last year's Louisville team, I believe, was the first team out also. I mean, he's a proven head coach. He has a winning percentage of around 65%.
52 years old for the record.
And I'm just wondering, because of the unique family situation, if my info is correct. Normally, this would be laughable. Come on. Can't get a coach that kind of resume at a small conference school like this that doesn't have money to throw around either.
No, they don't.
But
and I don't see anytime soon that they will.
But I just have to believe, and I understand that this will be the 4th men's basketball coach that athletic director Ken Cavanaugh will hire. And the first 3 have all been assistants. Andy Enfield was the number 2 assistant at Florida State. Joe Dooley was the number 1 assistant at Kansas. Now, Joe had been a head coach before. He was at East Carolina for 4 years and had a winning record. And believe me, that ain't easy. But Joe hadn't been a head coach in nearly 15 years. And he was hired having been an assistant. And obviously, Michael Fly was promoted from the assistant ranks. So his modus operandi is to hire an assistant on the rise. I think this time, with where the program is, I mean, when you fire a coach that's won 21 games, you know,
you need a complete, everybody likes to use the word culture, but I don't mean it just from the basketball team standpoint. They need an identity change. They don't need a culture change. They need an identity change because the Dunk City thing's long gone. They tried to live off that as long as they possibly could, to the point where, and you and I both know this, you know, we have people, whether it's in the Twitch chat room, text line, that say, come on, that's 10 years ago, be done with it already, to walking down the street going, I don't even, you know, guys like Felipe barely even remember what that was. So they desperately need an identity. And if you're right, in college basketball, what's the identity? The coach. It would have to be the perfect marriage, because you and I both know financially, they don't pay their coaches what it would take to get the names that are out there.
Right. But it might just be a perfect storm situation. He gets right back into coaching. All right. Has a kid on campus. Okay. Might be a nice place to re-enter. Hey, spend a couple years. You know, Joe Dooley spent 5. That was not his plan. His plan was to spend no more than 2. Come here, take the group that went to the Sweet 16, make it back to the tournament, use it as the launching pad to get a mid-major head coaching job, etc. You know, maybe this is Chris Mack's entry point, because the coaches know the jobs that are opening up. Some have opened up in the last 40 hours. They have a pretty good idea of the jobs that are going to open up. And maybe there's not one that he thinks he'd be a good fit for. And he may not want to sit out a year. But I think it needs to be a name. That's what I took out. And for the record, Ken and I have not spoken in the last 4 days. I mean, the last time we spoke was Tuesday night.
Of the jobs that are open, obviously he wouldn't get the Louisville job. He was just fired. Maryland, UMass, San Diego. And San Diego's not really a big boy job. Maryland and UMass are the 2 biggest jobs out there. Everything else is basically FGCU-esque.
Right now. Now, the Georgia job's going to open up right after the SEC tournament. The Mississippi State job also could open right after the SEC tournament. So, you know, wait another week to 10 days. That list is going to look a whole lot different.
Oh, yeah.
But like UMass, there's a lot of people think, yeah, you can't win there. You know, Calipari was the last one to really win there. And I don't know, that's where careers go to die. I don't think Chris Mack would take the UMass job, because he would say, nah, that's okay. I don't know if I can win there. You know, you look at some of the other jobs.
I mean, there's, you know, Lafayette, Western Michigan, you know, Maine. These are the jobs that are open, of being able to win.
Right. Right. And also, if you're really paying attention, I mean, this league's going to get weaker here real soon. Jacksonville State and Liberty are going to leave. They may leave immediately. At most, they're here one more year. Well, they were the 2 1 seeds in the conference tournament. The A-Sun is 12 teams, 6-6, and Liberty won the East and Jacksonville State won the West. And by the way, the 2 teams that are playing in the A-Sun final tonight, loaded with seniors. Now, I understand with the transfer portal, you can go year to year with teams, but just so you know, I mean, the A-Sun's going to get weaker here. The A-Sun was really good this year. 5 good teams in the league this year. I've been following this conference a dozen years, Mark. There's never been 5 good teams on the men's side. I don't know if there's been 5 good teams on the women's side either. Usually at most there's 3 on each side. This year there was 5 on the men's side. The league's going to get easier the next couple of years. And
hey, you just got to win more than 21.
Right.
Apparently 21's the death blow.
Well,
22, you stay.
But whoever the next coach is, I got to believe that is a little bit of name to it. I would be surprised if he went with the high-ranking assistant.
First off, I don't know if he can get the high-ranking assistant like he did with Dooley and Enfield. These guys took pay cuts. I think you're on to something that it has to be a coach that needs
to get back in.
I actually think whether it's a name coach or just a former head coach that may have been let go by someone else, that's somewhere between the A-Sun and the AAC, if you know what I mean.
And I don't think there's a lot of patience right now. I mean, clearly they ran out of patience with the last guy. So I think they want somebody who's going to come in and has done it before and can hit the ground running and win.
Hope for their sake they find him.
Because they've got a ticket problem. They've got a sponsorship problem. They have an energy problem within the program.
And all of those things apparently are on the coach.
Well,
no, I mean, they're on the coach to fix.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to fix what needs to be fixed internally, so the coach has to fix
we
everything.
don't know. I mean, right, they haven't in the past. You know, will this lead them to make some changes? But I think it will, just for who I believe is going to get hired. And I'll say it again. The athletic director and I have not spoken in a week. So I have I haven't talked to anybody. I haven't reached out to anybody. This is just a gut feeling that I believe they go with someone who's got a little bit of a name, and that would have a lot of bit of a name.
And I don't think they can get someone with a little bit of a name. I don't think they can pay enough. I hope you're right. I really do. But I've watched this program from afar since they've been going. They don't spend money.
I understand.
On anything.
Well, but this may be also one of those times where you sit down and you have a conversation with a few boosters and go, I know you've given X amount of money and you weren't planning on giving more, but this is who we can get as coach. It's going to take you, and you writing me 6-figure checks because I'm going to have to hire him at a salary the likes of which we've never paid before.
I hope you're right. They've never proven they could generate that type of cash in their history. There is nothing that makes me believe they can do so now.
Well, as we head to break, I'll leave you with this. Hey, the boosters got what they wanted here. I mean,
you're right.
The boosters wore down the AD and got the AD to fire the guy that they didn't want. Okay. When you're the AD, you then get to turn around, look at the boosters and go, hey, I gave you what you want. Now you need to give me what I need. And I need a little bit of change. Come on. I know you guys got the money. I know where you live. I need a little help over here. So I don't know. My gut feeling, Mark, is that they go a little bigger and a little bolder than they have previously because they feel they need to. And there are a lot of people, Mark, that think you can come here and you can win.
By the way, David, just to finish things up, Tom Crean's available if they want him because the Atlanta Journal-Constitution reporting that UGA and Coach Tom Crean depart ways after the basketball season.
Yeah,
as if we didn't know that. As Jeff Goodman tweeted out, this is the least surprising news you will hear this month.
25 minutes before the hour. Good, bad, and ugly. What's on tap? Today was the day when to wrap up this Tuesday edition of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, buried in bourbon, come on, though. You also grew up in Kentucky. I mean, let's be honest. You came out of the womb, and if there was a ball that you were going to play with, it was a basketball. I mean, come on now. That's a little different.
Well, Logic Man, there's nothing but old people here. I don't know what you expect.
Well, come on now. There's a lot of, I mean, you and I would be young in the FGCU crowd, though.
Right.
56 and 52.
We're in one of the oldest communities in the United States of America, Logic Man. It's the second oldest community in the country. What do you expect at games? Everblades games have old people.
But
and 18,000 people in San Carlos Park, that's your audience, huh? Come on.
Yeah, but the Blades have always attracted, and yeah, of course, the base down here is older. Absolutely. But that those that are not the base are clearly younger at a Blades game than they are at an FGCU game.
Used to be. It's been so long since I've been to an FGCU game, I can't answer that question anymore. I've been to...
Well, and there's a tell right there.
I've been to 15, 20 Blades games since I can't tell you my last FGCU game.
Did you go to one with Fly as coach?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well...
Yeah,
so probably pre-pandemic then.
Conference tournament game. I made
pre-pandemic.
Yeah, I made McBain was still here.
Okay, well that's over a couple years. So you think maybe you went before pandemic was March of 2020?
No, before. I have not gone since the pandemic. That's a fact.
Okay, so that's 2 years. That 2020 season they were bad.
I know I didn't go that year. I want to say it was the 2019.
So it's been 3 years since you went to an FGCU game. You live how many minutes away from FGCU? 8,
10 minutes. I mean, to park my car, 8-10 minutes.
No, I'm talking door to door.
I'm talking from backing out to barking and walking in 10 minutes.
Right.
It might even be less.
You do sports for a living, right?
Yeah.
Right. You have a 7-year-old.
Yep.
Who loves sports.
Not basketball.
But she loves sports, and it's an event.
She liked the hockey game. She liked the Everblades game. Wants to go back.
There's a pep band and cheerleaders at an FGCU basketball game. I don't think she'd have an awful time.
No.
And she can walk the concourse.
No.
Melissa used to walk the concourse all the time.
I have trouble going. I have personal issues with people that are hired there. I think they're terrible at their job, and I can't support people that I think are terrible at their job.
The atmosphere at games
is awful because of the person who's in charge of the atmosphere at games.
The sound quality of some of the songs are
totally
horrible.
Yeah, everything about it.
The song choice is just like
well, first off, it's also they do the exact same things at the exact same time for 7 to 8 years now. It's the exact same stuff at the same time. They bought the wrong scoreboard. Sound quality is terrible.
But I mean, you know, the Everblades had the wrong scoreboard for a year. Hoffman came in, bought the thing. The first thing he did was buy a brand new scoreboard. This has got to be fixed. If I were Ken Kavanaugh, I would say I need a new scoreboard.
Well,
I don't need a coach. I need a new scoreboard.
Problem is 5 years ago, he said I need a new scoreboard, and he bought this one. Why? Because it was a little cheaper than the ones that everybody buys.
Yeah, well, there you have it. He's a little cheaper. He's cheap.
We need a DJ.
I agree.
Yes, you do.
I agree. First off, the guy who does the Heat games used to be the DJ.
Yes.
Michael Hankinson used to be the DJ right there.
M. Dot.
Yeah. Know him well. Great dude.
Went to a USC game in January, out doing the NFL thing, and before I took in a USC game. They use the scoreboard at FGCU to sell advertising. That's all they use it for. It's one ad after another, after another, after another. At the Galen Center at USC, there wasn't a single sponsor that ever appeared on the scoreboard. It was all interactive with the fans. They had taped stuff with the players.
But go to the Everblades game and find the mix.
Yeah, right.
Because it still is minor league compared to USC.
Right.
Thanks for listening. And now, more of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
"18 minutes before the hour. Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network, brought to you in part by Napa. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for any and all vehicles. And if you're a do-it-yourselfer, well, come on, you know the filters to buy. They're Napa. And for those of you in Southwest Florida, visit John, Lisa, Justin, and Kyle. They're the Napa Dream Team between locations in Fort Myers, Cape Coral, San Carlos, North Fort Myers, and Punta Gorda. They own a bunch of stores. They're open 7 days a week with a large inventory, which is important these days. Say hi to the Napa Dream Team and tell them Miller and Moulton sent you. Right now it is, yes?
No, I was going to say the same thing you're about to say. I just didn't know if you had anything else there.
No, I don't.
I'd like to be a dream team one day.
Yeah, we've had our chance at that. We're the nightmare team. Just ask anybody.
Ask management.
Right.
Without any further ado.
Leave it to the oldest guy in the show, and definitely the oldest soul to live in the past. Here's David Moulton with Today Was the Day When...
Going to go back to 1817. The New York Stock Exchange is 205 years old today.
Happy birthday.
They've had a hell of a week.
Ooh.
Where are we going? 1900, the National League decides we're going to go with 8 teams. They left out Baltimore, Cleveland, Louisville, and Washington. So obviously that's why those ended up where? In the AL. 1913, a dark day, Mark. The IRS begins to levy and collect income taxes. 109 years ago. Bad idea.
Too big to fail.
1930, Babe Ruth signed a big deal. Big contract. 2-year deal, Mark. $80,000 a year. He made $160,000. The Yankees GM at the time said, and I quote, "No one will ever be paid more than Babe Ruth." $80,000 a year. We'll say this, though. It was 1930. Remember when Koufax and Drysdale held out in 66?
Right. We just did that the other day.
Right. They were looking for $100,000 each. So from 1930 to 1966, salaries didn't move that much. Want to know why? No union, no free agency. Shortly after Koufax and Drysdale, Marvin Miller's like, guys, you're going about the... Kurt Flood, 3 years later, said, this is ridiculous. And changed baseball. That's why he should be in the Hall of Fame also. It's absurd. 1948, a controversial ruling then and to some now. It's McCollum versus the Board of Ed. The Supreme Court rules that religious instruction in public schools is unconstitutional. 74 years ago today. 1964, Malcolm X resigns from the Nation of Islam. And as he pointed out shortly thereafter, I've probably signed my death warrant. And he didn't live a year. 1971, March 8th, 71. The original fight of the century. Ali Frazier, Madison Square Garden.
I think all you need to say about how important that fight was is that Frank Sinatra was the photographer for Life magazine, so he had good seats.
Right, ringside, in a tux, taking pictures. They
So-
used him.
They used him. That's the best part.
They used him. He got the cover. All right, they used his pictures for the cover
So great.
of Life magazine. Frazier beat Ali in a 15-round decision, knocked him down in the 15th round. Ali, both fighters were undefeated. Ali had his 31-0 record obviously tarnished. Ali would win their next two fights. 1983, President Reagan calls the Soviet Union the evil empire for the first time. On this day in 1983, he was giving a speech in Florida when he did it. Mark, the A-Team aired its last episode on this day in 1987. The A-Team was only around 4 years.
And it was deliciously awful.
Oh, it was horrendous.
Yes, but great at the same time.
I have to admit it was so bad I couldn't watch it.
Oh,
I only gave it a few episodes.
loved it.
But here's Mr. T, 35 years later, still in commercials. The show only aired 4 years.
David, he was in Rocky. Okay, it's not the A-Team. He was in Rocky.
What was it, 3? He was
Yes.
in? All right. Just don't look at me with disdain. I'm just asking.
Like you didn't know which one it was.
I was pretty sure. I was just checking. A little sensitive about your Rocky movies. One of my favorites, Fargo, was released on this day in 1996. Wife and I were out there. She was yet my wife, actually, but was about to be. And the locals would say to us, you know, what do you think of the movie? And we went, oh, we loved it. And they go, come on, that's not how we are. We'd be like, okay.
You say so.
Right. No. The Coen brothers, they way out of line. Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, until the wood chipper, I thought they, got everything. Okay. 2014, one of the great mysteries of the 21st century. 8 years ago today, Malaysia Flight 370, 239 people on it, disappears from radar less than an hour after taking off. Military radar has some tracking of it over the course of the next 45 minutes. The wreckage has never been found. 239 people on board. 8 years ago today. They believe it went down somewhere in the southern Indian Ocean, but they really don't know.
That's why they haven't found anything.
Right.
That and these oceans,
right.
They're deep.
They really are, Mark.
Thank you.
Deeper than you think.
Yep.
3 years ago today, the U.S. women's national team lawsuit for equal pay began. Remember, they only settled this thing like a week and a half ago. That's why I mentioned it. And 2 years ago today, the United States reported 521 cases of COVID and 21 deaths. Jim Bouton would have been 83, the author of Ball 4. Dick Allen would have been 80 today. Should be in the Hall of Fame. The Veterans Committee twice now has denied him by a vote. Twice. He's come up one vote short. Pete Dawkins, arguably the greatest soldier in Army history, and also a Heisman Trophy winner. Look up Pete Dawkins and all that he accomplished as a soldier. Arguably the greatest one in the history of the Army. 84 today. Jim Rice is 69 today. Buck Williams is 62. Kenny Smith is 57. Steve Sarkisian is 48. Hines Ward and Freddie Prinze Jr. have the same birthday. They're both 46 today. James Vanderbeek is 45. Kat Von D, for those of you who like your tats, is 40. Lester Holt is 63. Mickey Dolenz of the Monkees is 77. And Marcus Spears is 39. And that was today was the day.
One small omission today, David. I don't know how you missed this on yours, but it was today in 1993 that Beavis and Butthead debuted on MTV.
That's a big omission.
You've heard folks elsewhere mock Florida is gonna Florida. Well, Mark Miller sees it differently. He calls it the good, the bad, and the ugly. What you got, Mark?
What a story for the good from WFLA in Tampa. Tony Shurik is a Florida State Highway Patrol trooper, and she saved countless lives. There was a 10K race on Sunday that went over the Skyway Bridge in Tampa. A drunk driver went through the toll lanes in the blockade. She positioned her car in a way, forcing the other car to crash into her. And who knows how many lives she saved. Taken to the hospital. She's going to be okay from all reports that I've seen. I was trying to dig even harder, but wow, you can see the dash cam video. It is startling what this woman did to save others. Great, great job. For the back of North Fort Myers, where Samuel Rutherford was arrested for stealing golf carts. Apparently, communities along North Cleveland have been plagued by golf cart theft since the beginning of the year. Rutherford became a suspect when detectives learned he traded a stolen golf cart at a business. You know, when you live in a neighborhood, David, you probably shouldn't be selling the golf carts that you stole in front of your house with a sign and your phone number on them.
Different neighborhood, maybe. Not the same.
Not too tough to track down. He is currently in the Lee County Jail. And finally, the ugly, we go to Cape Coral. And I know you're saying we could go there every day.
Stop it.
The traffic, David, the traffic. It's something horrible out there. You know that. But imagine, David, you're sleeping in, which for you is impossible now doing mornings to imagine. But imagine when you're sleeping in, all of a sudden, you start hearing people on your roof. You see, that's what happened to the Aikens in Cape Coral when Friday morning, Susie heard some noise, and there were 10 roofers up on her roof pulling out the tiles. Problem was they were at the wrong house. Now they're wondering when CMR Construction's going to fix their roof. We'll keep you posted. And that, David, is the good, the bad, and the ugly on today, March the 8th, 2022.
All right. 4 college basketball conference championships tonight. North Dakota State, South Dakota State in the Summit, UNC Wilmington, Delaware in the Colonial, Wright State, Northern Kentucky in the Horizon, Jacksonville, Bellarmine in the ASUN. Bigger conference final is Gonzaga and St. Mary's in the West Coast.
Hockey tonight, Panthers are at the Pens. Lightning are at the Jets. As far as games with the in-state teams.
NBA 6 games. The in-state game is Orlando hosting Phoenix. TNT doubleheader night tonight. If you're interested, at 7:30 and 10 o'clock.
Seth Everett will join us on the show tomorrow, and we will see between now and tomorrow morning. It's D-Day again, David. They've got until the end of the day.
Or else they're going to shut down at least another week of the season. Miller and Moulton. Thanks so much for listening. Enjoy your day. We are part of the Florida Sports Network.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous